Chapter 6346. Such a phenomenon made countless people talk about it. The people of the demon realm even shouted, "The demon god has appeared." However, at this moment, the indomitable phantom of the demon god suddenly shattered. A destructive aura swept out in all directions. At this moment, the land of heavens was illuminated by endless aurora. In the universe, countless people closed their eyes. They were stunned. What happened? No. Is the demon god destroyed? The people of the demon race broke down. They had just had the hope of rising, but now it was destroyed. In the city of 1,000 knives, everyone was also wailing. The scorching sun emperor had just shouted to run when the demon god's body split open, and the destructive power enveloped them. At this moment, they were like small boats swaying in the wind, unable to resist at all. One figure after another quickly fell under this destructive power. The great emperors were desperate and wanted to escape, but they found that it was impossible. In the next moment, their bodies were torn into pieces. Damn it! When the saber immortal who was fighting in front of them saw this scene, he was instantly furious. He roared crazily, wanting to go back to help. However, it was useless even after he slashed out with his saber. He had split open countless demonic auras, but the remaining ones were enough to turn the others into ashes. In Upper Qingqing, the people of the god realm were stunned. The demon emperor died together with us. Why is this guy so desperate? In the 9th underworld, Lin Xian and the others were also at a loss. However, Zhou Tianshi said he won't die so easily. He has an indestructible power in him. He might really be able to destroy a city alone. After Lin Xian and the others heard this, they gasped. How terrifying is it to destroy a city alone? The city of 1,000 knives was shaking violently at this moment. It was a mess inside, with broken bones everywhere and blood flying everywhere. There was not a single complete figure around. Dead, they were all dead. The scorching sun emperor only had a head left, and his broken aura was extremely weak. The other 2 great emperors' bodies were also broken, and their bodies were dyed red with blood. Their bodies trembled as they looked around. Except for the 3 of them, everyone else was dead. That demon emperor must have died as well. How pitiful. He had to get Saber Immortal back as soon as possible. Otherwise, if the people from the god realm launched another attack, they would not be able to withstand it at all. At that instant, the magical voice echoed once again, "I'm a demon, immortal and indestructible." No, Scorching Sun Emperor had gone mad. The other 2 super emperors also had a mental breakdown. If he was still alive, how could there be an immortal being in the world? However, this demon emperor before his eyes did it. After the demon emperor recovered his body, he stomped on the head of the Scorching Sun Emperor and crushed it. Scorching Sun Emperor finally couldn't take it anymore. Even though he was a super great emperor, his life force was tenacious. However, at this moment, he was still reduced to ashes. As for the other 2 super great emperors, the demon monarch directly struck out of the demon world and sealed them. The next moment, he looked up to the sky and roared angrily, "One person destroyed a city, I did it." After saying that, his figure flashed and flew out. Die! Extremely far away, the saber immortal roared and slashed out a peerless saber beam. This slash directly enveloped the Fiend Emperor. Around the Fiend Emperor, the void shattered. The Fiend Emperor's expression also changed. At the critical moment, his body shattered into countless fragments and flew in all directions. As long as one fragment flew out, he would be immortal and indestructible. However, this slash enveloped his entire body. Not a single fragment could escape. The Fiend Emperor was shocked. This power is indeed strong. It seems that I can't resist it yet. Why aren't you saving me? He roared crazily. He didn't believe that the god realm would sit back and do nothing. Sure enough, in the sky, an iron rod fell and directly shattered this saber beam. The iron rod was like a sea-stabilizing divine needle, holding the world in place. Thank you. The Fiend Emperor hurriedly left. He turned into lightning and quickly fled. Ah, the saber immortal was very desperate. Even his soul was shaking from anger. The war god intercepted him. There was no hope of killing the fiend emperor. He vented all his anger on Lin Jian. Go to hell. Heaven destroying 18 slashes. He slashed out 18 peerless saber beams in a row, wanting to kill Lin Jian. Lin Jian's face was gloomy. He didn't say a word and quickly dodged. 9 nether ancient city. When the fiend emperor appeared, Lin Xian and the others were shocked beyond words. He didn't die. This fiend emperor actually had such a terrifying, indestructible power. Lin Xian had felt this power when he was at Mount Eternal. However, he discovered that the fiend emperor's power seemed to be even stronger. I destroyed a city. Can I see the power of a land immortal now? The fiend emperor spoke. Sure, come in. Zhou Tianshi waved his hand and opened the array formation. The fiend emperor walked in and stood in front of Master Rashi. He formed a seal with his palms and began to search for Master Rashi's secrets. Master Rashi roared in anger. However, he was suppressed by the array formation. There was nothing he could do. Lin Xian took a deep breath and said, "The city of 10,000 sabers has been destroyed. Let's go and take it." They had to hurry. "Senior, please teleport us to the city of 10,000 sabers." "Sure." Zhou Tianshi waved his hand and a spatial array formation was instantly set up. In the next instant, Lin Xian, Morong Qingqing, Yi Wu Dao, and the others walked into the city of 10,000 sabers. A large number of experts entered the spatial array formation and disappeared. When they reappeared, they were already inside the city of 10,000 sabers. The Crimson Dragon exclaimed, "Across the endless void between the 9 heavens and 10 earths, such accurate teleportation. As expected of the Heavenly Master. I want to learn this technique too." Although he could teleport, he couldn't break the power of the 9 heavens and 10 earths to teleport so accurately. Yi Wu Dao, Gu Santong, and the others were shocked beyond words. They sucked in a breath of cold air. The power of the surrounding blood sea was too terrifying. There were actually super great emperors who had fallen. They didn't dare to get close to the aura of blood. "Leave the rest to me. I will teleport all of this power away," the Crimson Dragon said. Lin Xian, Morong Qingqing, and the others also helped. They threw the corpses of the great emperors and the terrifying sea of blood outside the city of 10,000 sabers. Everyone started to clean up the city of 10,000 sabers. Before long, all kinds of seas of blood were outside the city of 10,000 sabers. Ghosts wailed and wolves howled and blood rained down. Lightning fell and the sky and earth exploded. The saber immortal was so angry that he vomited blood. "Damn it, is someone taking over the city of 10,000 sabers?" He roared and slashed at the 9 heavens. "Hurry up and help me." Xian Yin attacked, and so did the Grim Reaper. The Otherworld, Heavenly Master, also sent many experts. They were robbing the city of 10,000 sabers. The saber immortal turned around to defend. It seemed that it was impossible to kill Lin Jian in a short time. But if the city of 10,000 sabers was lost, he couldn't explain it. So he turned around and charged back into the city of 10,000 sabers. Lin Xian and the others felt their hair stand on end. A shocking saber light enveloped them. Boom! The godly sea-steadying needle appeared again and blocked the saber. Lin Xian and the others breathed a sigh of relief. The next moment, they found that Sun Qitian had also arrived. "I'm here to help you." Sun Qitian had also become a great emperor. He waved his hand, took the godly sea-steadying needle, and waved it in all directions. In the sky, Xian Yin said coldly, "Fighting God, you dared to sneak attack me last time. This time, I will teach you a lesson." The saber immortal also attacked the fighting god crazily. The battle started again. The fighting god's eyes burst out with terrifying flames. His eyes burned the 9 heavens. Chapter 63:47. The land immortals of the Divine Realm and the Nirvana Realm attacked, one after another. The battle between immortals was about to break out again. Lin Xian raised his head and looked at Xian Yin and Xian Ming. He furrowed his brows tightly. These were two stone men, but they were stone men that could move. This meant that their strength was terrifying, at least on par with a fighting god. Because once a land immortal was petrified, they couldn't move. Master Rashi had already proved this point before. The two people in front of him could move. They were absolutely terrifying. The foundation of the Nirvana realm was really terrifying. In the sky, Saber Immortal smiled. You two are finally here. Great, let's attack together and take them down. He was extremely excited. Lin Zhan roared, Today none of you can pass. The city of 10,000 blades no longer belongs to you. He stepped in all directions and sent a voice transmission to the people below. Xian quickly transform the city of 10,000 blades and remove the blade energy inside. Plant your dragon sword soul and turn it into the city of 10,000 blades. It will completely belong to us. Father, don't worry. Leave this city to me. Lin Xian took a deep breath. Next, he was going to take action. Of course, with his strength, he couldn't break it instantly. He asked Zhou Tianshi for help. Zhou Tianshi teleported over. He opened a space passage that connected the two ancient cities. This method was heaven-defying. Seeing the scene, Saber Immortal frowned. Xian Yin and Xian Ming's expressions also changed. The power of a heavenly master. And it was the power of a heavenly master that wasn't affected by the mutation. Damn it, the divine realm actually had this kind of power. Xian Ming looked at Death and said, Won't the Temple of Paragon make a move? Are you going to let the heavenly master act outside? Death's expression changed. This heavenly master suddenly appeared. We didn't have any information about him before. But don't worry, from this moment on, we have already targeted him. The Temple of Paragon won't let him go. Soon they will take action. However, we can only rely on ourselves in this battle. Let's fight with our backs to the wall. The Nirvana realm couldn't retreat, and they wouldn't allow it. Even if they fell behind, they had to fight. The divine fire and immortal chi on their bodies erupted. Extreme weapons and great emperor weapons swept across the air. A terrifying aura swept through the 9 heavens. In the next moment, they collided. An earth-shattering sound was heard. This battle caused the expressions of everyone in the universe to change. The battle between immortals broke out again. Attack the city. The other world, Heavenly King, sent out more warriors. The Earth immortal level expert was gone. However, they still had some super great emperors and great emperors. At that moment, they started attacking, frantically. They wanted to take back the million-blade ancient city. They absolutely could not allow another ancient city to be lost. Leaf Daodenier and Murong Qingqing roared in rage. Together with Yen Ruyu, the 3 of them charged toward a super martial monarch. Although the 3 of them were only great emperors, they were extraordinary. Murong Qingqing, who possessed the immemorial phoenix secret art, could transform into a 7-colored phoenix and soar for 9 days. As for Leaf Daodenier, he cultivated the projection of an immortal king, making him seem like an indomitable giant. Yen Ruyu, on the other hand, was covered in green lotuses. Together with her elegant weapon, she was equally powerful. The 3 of them held back a super great emperor. That super great monarch had gone mad. He actually couldn't kill 3 little ants. It was too inconceivable. Charge quickly. The others also attacked one after another. They were unwilling to give up. They had to take down this ancient city. However, the changes in the ancient city were extremely fast. With the help of the heavenly cycle master, Lin Xian quickly found the core of the earth vein. He took out the great dragon sword soul and placed it in the core of the earth vein. Immediately a dragon roar sounded. The great dragon sword soul was like a dragon entering the sea. entangling the earth vein. In the next moment, the entire earth vein seemed to be rolling. Immediately, the saber chi that was originally covering the surroundings shattered. It turned into countless fragments. At the same time, sword chi began to appear. Damn it! The saber immortal who was fighting with Lin Zhan in the sky felt this scene, and his eyes instantly turned red. The other party had controlled the earth vein so easily. Damn it! It was that heavenly cycle master. The power of a heavenly cycle master was too mysterious, especially when he had cultivated to the level of an earth immortal. It could be said that his methods were heaven-defying. There were many secret techniques that were beyond their imagination. This heavenly cycle master couldn't be allowed to live anymore. At the same time, he also sighed, and a hint of despair appeared in his eyes. I'm afraid that I won't be able to take back the city of 10,000 blades. This time he failed. Not only was his body petrified, but he had also lost the ancient city that he was guarding. Without the ancient city, his cultivation speed would be much slower. More importantly, if he wanted to break through the petrification, he had to borrow the power of the ancient city's earth vein. Now that the city of 10,000 blades was lost, how could he improve in the future? Could it be that he would become a statue for the rest of his life? He was unwilling. He roared at the sky. All his previous preparations had been burned to ashes. The saber immortal went crazy and sent Lin Zhan flying with a slash. Lin Zhan spat out a large mouthful of blood, and a crack appeared on his body. However, he smiled. The angrier the other party was, the worse the state of the heavenly cycle master was. So what if you have an immortal art? This time, I can't let you run away. Lin Zhan charged over. On the other side, the fighting god was facing Xian Yin and Xian Ming by himself. He stretched out his eyes and hands and charged towards the two peerless experts. Xian Yin and Xian Ming were not as strong as the fighting god. However, when the two of them attacked together, they could restrain the other party. This way, there would be no one to restrain the Grim Reaper. The Grim Reaper seized the opportunity and charged towards the city of 10,000 blades. He wanted to seize this city. He wanted to occupy the earth vein in this ancient city to cultivate. Countless wisps of death aura appeared on his body, and he flew down like a sea of death. The people of the god realm in the ancient city felt this power, and their faces instantly turned pale. Not good. My life force is fading. Damn it. I'm about to turn into a skeleton. Hurry up and defend. The Crimson Dragon roared and crazily activated the power of the array formation. However, his life force was also fading. There was no choice. The difference was too great. Humph. Zhou Tianshi snorted coldly. He waved his hand, and the earth vein trembled. Then a sword aura flew out of the earth vein and was held in his hand. The sword slashed towards the sky. This sword not only contained the power of the earth vein, but also the power of the great dragon sword soul. It was extremely sharp. The Dead Sea that filled the sky was split into two, as expected of one of the 5 swords of the world. Zhou Tianshi was surprised because the power of the earth vein alone couldn't be so powerful. However, he still sighed. He didn't have the great dragon sword soul, so he couldn't exert its true power. Furthermore, the great dragon sword soul was incomplete. If it had been at its peak, this sword strike would have been able to split the Grim Reaper in half. Damn it. The Grim Reaper dodged the sword. His expression was ugly. This Zhou Tianshi was really troublesome. He didn't attack again. Instead, he secretly sent a voice transmission. Old friend, let's do it. Let's attack Juyou Ancient City and lure the tiger away from the mountain. Let's see if it works. Anyway, we have to snatch one of these 2 ancient cities. Is it finally time for me to make a move? No problem. Within the cosmos, a gigantic black shadow laughed out coldly before flying out. His target was Juyou Ancient City in Juyou. Chapter 60, 348. This figure was extremely powerful and pitch black. As soon as he appeared, the shadow he cast seemed to cover half of the universe. The martial artists of countless planets were terrified. They looked up and saw a huge dark cloud covering the world. The aura above was cold, as if the gate of hell had been opened. The martial artists of Geo were even more shocked. Many people knelt on the ground. What kind of master is this? Did he come to us again? Master, Shin exclaimed, an earth immortal. May I ask who you are, fellow Taoist? Master Shin flew up and hovered in the air. The feathers on his body, like a heavenly sword, soared into the sky. He confronted the dark cloud. A pair of eyes appeared in the dark cloud. In the pitch-black eyes, black flames danced, which could burn the world. I am the god of the underworld, and I am going to attack Geo Ancient City. Are you going to stop me? A cold voice came. Master Shen was shocked. A master of the Supreme Palace? Moreover, the other party came for Geo Ancient City. I am not stopping you, and I am not from the divine realm. However, Geo Ancient City is extremely mysterious. Why don't we join forces and explore it together? No need. The god of the underworld refused instantly. Master Shin's face changed. He still wanted to say something, but the god of the underworld had already moved. He turned into a dark cloud and flew toward Geo Ancient City again. Soon, it enveloped Geo Ancient City. Boom! The huge eye in the dark cloud fell, and a monstrous black light, like a sea of fire, rushed toward Geo Ancient City. It made Geo Ancient City shake violently. Countless people in the city were shocked. So powerful! This is the power of an earth immortal. Demon Emperor also frowned. He waved his hand and cast a few defensive spells. However, it was useless. Master Rashi said, "Ha ha ha ha, the god of the underworld is here. Can you defend this ancient city? Quick, cut off the space channel first." The god of the underworld in the sky took out a pitch-black divine sword and slashed down, cutting the space channel formed by Zhou Tianshi into two halves. The sky was full of space cracks, and everyone was desperate. In the City of Heavens, Zhou Tianshi, who helped Lin Xian, also frowned. Oh no, Geo Ancient City is under attack. Do they want to take advantage of the situation? Lin Xian said, "Senior, are you okay?" Zhou Tianshi said, "No, I have to go back quickly. It seems that the one who attacked is a land immortal." What? Earth immortal? Lin Xian was stunned. Where is the land immortal? Virtual immortal? Half a soul was nothing to be afraid of. Logically speaking, the demon monarch and the others should have been able to fend it off with the help of the earth vein. This is an earth immortal at his peak. I wonder which force he is from. I'm leaving first. Otherwise, Geo Ancient City would be lost. Zhou Tianshi waved his hand, and in an instant, a spatial array appeared in front of him. He entered the spatial door and disappeared. Lin Xian was extremely anxious. Another earth immortal had appeared. What was going on? Could Geo Ancient City be defended? The situation had really become confusing. In Geo Ancient City, the god of the underworld's enormous body began to descend after cutting off the space tunnel. He had already torn open the formation and was about to occupy Geo Ancient City. Countless people in the city were terrified. Their bodies were torn apart, and they could see the cold smile on the underworld god's face. It seemed to be imprinted on the heavens. Boom! Suddenly, an earth-shattering voice rang out. Zhou Tianshi returned and immediately activated the Great Sky Divination Formation. The mysterious formation, together with the earth vein, instantly blocked the god of the underworld's figure. The smile on the god of the underworld's face disappeared, and he frowned. "You are the heavenly master." A cold snort sounded like thunder. Then, in the black fog, the underworld god's sword slashed down. The pitch-black, long sword carried a monstrous aura of death. It was extremely cold, and no one could resist it. The sword seemed to be able to destroy all the powerhouses in the world. The Great Sky Divination Formation shook violently. However, at this moment, the formation turned into a mysterious tower that enveloped Zhou Tianshi. The mysterious tower shook and spun, releasing powerful energy. "Get out!" Zhou Tianshi roared angrily, and the formation merged with the ancient city. Then the mysterious tower turned into a great sky divination hand and pushed out, forcing the god of the underworld to retreat. The god of the underworld's body left Geo-ancient city, roaring in anger. However, he soon sneered. "You can't defend this place, but you can't defend the city of 10,000 blades. The god of death, and I will get an ancient city. Let's see what you can do." As soon as he said that, the expressions of the people from the divine realm changed drastically. Oh no, they were in danger. Originally, they had the upper hand against the otherworld heavenly king. However, the addition of the Paragon Hall at this time changed the situation. They thought that the Supreme Hall was just a group of supremes. They weren't even great emperors, so there was nothing to be afraid of. However, who would have thought? At this time, the Supreme Hall could send out 2 Earth Immortals. With such strength and the otherworld heavenly king, they were about to surpass them. Sure enough, the city of 10,000 blades was attacked again. The god of death sneered, and a great sky divination hand fell. Everyone in the city felt their blood boil, and their lives were draining away. Were they going to die? Lin Xian roared. He planned to use the great dragon sword soul with all his strength. He slashed out with his sword and blocked the great sky divination hand. However, in just a moment, the great sky divination hand fell again. "It's useless, Lin Wudi. You are only invincible among your peers. In front of an Earth Immortal, you are still no match." "Damn it!" Lin Xian roared, "Man and sword as one." He rushed into the Earth vein and fused with the great dragon sword soul. A terrifying dragon-shaped sword energy flew out and slashed out again. This sword strike shattered the sky and destroyed the stars. It actually blocked the great sky divination hand. The god of death frowned tightly. The other party's sword strike was really beyond his expectations. However, how many sword strikes can you make? Sure enough, Lin Xian separated from the great dragon sword soul, and all the power in his body was used up. Fortunately, there was the power of the earth vein here. Otherwise, his power would have been sucked dry by the great dragon sword soul. "Little ant, you have angered me." The god of death took out his scythe. The huge scythe turned into an arc of death and slashed down. Lin Xian felt a cold aura. "Can't I hold on any longer?" At this moment, a black hole appeared in the sky, devouring the power of the sword and swallowing the scythe of death. "Wine Lord!" Lin Xian exclaimed. The Wine Sword Immortal's figure appeared. He had sensed it during the previous battle. However, he was attacking the ancient city of the Ghost Immortal. He felt that the divine realm should be able to hold on, so he didn't come to support. However, the appearance of the god of the underworld was beyond his expectations. He had to withdraw from the front line and come to support. At the most critical moment, he saved Lin Xian and the others. "Little guy, are you okay?" Wine Lord asked. Lin Xian shook his head. "It was too dangerous. I was almost destroyed. You continue to take this ancient city and plant your own sword energy. As for the god of death, I will help you stop him." The Wine Sword Immortal looked at the god of death and said, "You bullied my disciple? If you have the ability, fight me." After that, the vortex behind him erupted and swallowed the entire world. It swallowed the god of death as well. Chapter 60, 349. Damn it, the god of death cursed. To be honest, he didn't want to fight with the Wine Sword Immortal because he controlled one of the 5 swords. This was a transcendent power. As expected, he was swallowed by the black hole as if he had entered a quagmire. This power wanted to disintegrate him. He could only use the death chi to block it. For a moment he was in a stalemate. The battlefield was balanced again. Deity ground. Moon Palace. The moon goddess's eyes flashed when she saw this. She didn't attack. The demon emperor had warned her not to get involved in this. However, another person in the Moon Palace made a move. It was a beautiful woman. She was wearing blue and looked like a fairy from the Moon Palace. She was the Moon Goddess. She flew out of the Moon Palace and towards the heavens. When the Moon Goddess saw this scene, she sighed and said, "Infatuated people. Fine, I'll help you this time." She didn't attack, but she activated the World of Man. The World of Man was an assassin organization. It was extremely terrifying. They set off from the World of Man and joined the battlefield to assassinate people from the Supreme Palace. The Supreme Palace also had an assassin organization called Hell. This was the battle between the World of Man and Hell. The assassins from both sides appeared and disappeared like ghosts. They kept reaping the lives of their opponents. When the Moon Goddess joined, the Supreme Palace's people's expressions changed. Higgin also said, "Moon Goddess, are you sure you want to interfere? Don't force us to kill you." The Moon Goddess didn't say anything. She looked at Lin Jan. Lin Jan said, "Leave. It's too dangerous here. You don't have to come." The Moon Goddess shook her head. "No, I'll help you." Then she came to Lin Jan's side and looked at the Sword Immortal. Lin Jan smiled bitterly. "Don't be silly. I'm not the Battle Emperor anymore. I'm Lin Jan. The Battle Emperor is the past. I'm the new me. The one you love is the Battle Arch, not me." "Stop talking." The Moon Goddess shook her head. "Even if I'm doing this for the world, I won't let Higgin succeed." Then she looked at the Sword Immortal and the 7 treasure tree appeared in her hand. The Moon Goddess's participation changed the battlefield again. The Divine Realm had the upper hand again. Lord Alcohol laughed. "Good. Moon Goddess, please come and protect the city of 10,000 knives. I'll go and invite someone else." "No problem." When the Guanghan Immortal arrived at the 10,000 Saber City, the 7 treasure divine tree in his hand completely enveloped the entire ancient city. As for Lord Alcohol, he transformed into a vortex and disappeared. He flew to an extremely far place. This time he came to the true spirit world. It flew below the central continent. There was an equally terrifying power there, the Yuhua Immortal Dynasty. "Join hands with me and conquer an ancient city. I'll give you half of the earth veins inside. You can use the earth veins to restore your sovereigns. This ancient city is the seat of the Ghost Immortal. My guess is that he should know some clues. If you need that information, just ask Ghost Immortal." "Good." A reply came from the Yuhua Immortal Dynasty. Shortly after, a man covered in flames flew out. This person was called the Flame Immortal. He had appeared once when he entered the 9 underworlds. That time, the other party was chasing after a demon immortal. After that, he disappeared once again. And now, the other party was about to make a move again. The Wine Sword Immortal, however, frowned. He said, "Time is running out. Can you do more?" The Flame Immortal said, "Taoist friend, don't worry. Sun-chasing bow." The Wine Sword Immortal was very surprised. He even took out a divine artifact. He laughed. "All right, let's not delay any longer. Let's hurry up and take action." The so-called divine artifacts were used by land immortals. However, divine artifacts were difficult to forge. This was because the materials needed were very rare. Ordinary divine artifacts were ancient divine artifacts that had been passed down from ancient times. Not every land immortal had a divine artifact. For example, Lin Jan didn't have one. This was because he had just become a land immortal and didn't have time to forge his own weapon. Moreover, the sun-chasing bow was a divine artifact and an ancient divine artifact. Its power was very terrifying. It was said that it was forged by the sun god. Unexpectedly, it was now in the hands of the Yuhua Immortal Dynasty. With this ancient divine artifact and half of the devouring sword, they could definitely take down the Song Imperial City. The two joined hands and returned to the 9 underworlds. The Song Imperial City was also a very mysterious ancient city in the 9 underworlds. The person guarding the Song Imperial City was the Ghost Immortal. After he learned that the Wine Sword Immortal had left, he heaved a sigh of relief. His crisis had finally been resolved. However, good times didn't last long. He didn't expect that he would soon face another crisis. And this time, the crisis had multiplied. The Wine Sword Immortal had actually called for help. A man with flames burning all over his body. The aura of extreme yang spread across the 9 heavens. The cold aura of the 9 underworlds seemed to have been blown away. A bright light descended, shocking countless people. You are from the Yuhua Immortal Dynasty. When the Ghost Immortal saw this figure, he exclaimed, "The Yuhua Immortal Dynasty is also going to make a move." The Wine Sword Immortal laughed. "Only you are allowed to join forces with the Supreme Palace, but we are not allowed to find help. This time we will break your defense and take down the Song Imperial City." The Ghost Immortal really panicked. He said, "The Yuhua Immortal Dynasty has no use for the Song Imperial City. There is no power suitable for you here. This is a kind of cold power. You don't need it. There are thousands of great Daos, and all Daos are united. There is nothing that you don't need. It's just that you don't know how to use it." The Flame Immortal stood in the void and said coldly, "Are you going to leave voluntarily, or do you want us to make a move? Damn it, don't be arrogant. You might not be able to take it down." The Ghost Immortal activated the 1,000 Ghost Array. Instantly, ghosts wailed and wolves howled. It was as if Azura Hell had reappeared between heaven and earth. The Wine Sword Immortal slashed out the devouring sword, forming an endless black hole that began to devour these ghost shadows. On the other side, the Flame Immortal took out the chasing sun bow and drew it with both hands. The Flame Immortal energy on his body condensed into an arrow. Under the effect of the chasing sun bow, it became more and more terrifying. The arrow flew out and flew toward the 1,000 Ghost Array. Instantly, it was like a hot knife through butter. The ghost shadows fled frantically and were pierced through one after another. Boom! The 1,000 Ghost Array was pierced through, and endless darkness flew away. The Ghost Immortal was shocked. His eyes almost popped out of their sockets as he stared fixedly at the weapon. Ancient God artifact. And it was an ancient God artifact that could restrain him. This was the power of the purest yang. The Flame Immortal roared, and the chasing sun bow shot out again. This arrow was even more dazzling and terrifying than the previous one. At this moment, everyone in the universe was shocked. The power of the ancient God artifact was indeed too powerful. Even Lin Xian's 9-yang body was trembling. He was extremely shocked. The power of the purest yang, and it was a power that surpassed the great emperor. A terrifying weapon had appeared between heaven and earth. Boom! The chasing sun bow shot out, and this arrow flew directly into the ancient city. Countless Nirvana realm powerhouses were pierced by this arrow. At the same time, the power of the devouring sword also erupted and directly swallowed half of the ancient city. The 2 land immortals attacked with extreme power. They were about to destroy the ancient city. Chapter 6350. Underworld God, come and save me. Ghost Immortal finally called for help. He could sense that Underworld God was in the north of 9 Serenities. He was the closest to him and most likely to save him. The god of the underworld snorted coldly, and his enormous body flew back. The black flames on his body shook the sky. The underworld god's sword slashed at 9 Sword Immortal. Wine Sword Immortal snorted and swung his devouring sword. A large black hole swallowed heaven and earth. The 2 swords clashed with an earth-shattering sound. Then Wine Sword Immortal shouted, "Underworld God, if you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." He activated the 9 Serenities, sword with all his strength. The black long sword was like a vortex. Heaven and earth trembled. This sword could swallow all things. I'm not afraid of you." Underworld God shouted angrily. He was also an expert in the sword Tao. The Underworld God sword carried an extremely cold aura that could take away all the life force of an expert. The two's sword techniques were outstanding. They used their divine powers and immortal spells repeatedly. At this moment, a light flew over like a shocking fire dragon. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws and attacked Underworld God. Underworld God's expression changed, and he quickly dodged. The next moment, a golden arrow flew past him. The scorching aura made a large amount of light on his body disappear. He felt pain on his skin as if it was about to split open. The next moment, he stopped and looked down. "Flame Immortal, how dare you sneak attack me?" The attack just now was made by Flame Immortal with a sun-chasing bow. It was extremely terrifying. Flame Immortal said coldly, "I'll kill anyone who stops me." Then, he waved the sun-chasing bow again and attacked. Wine Lord also used the 9 Serenity sword. Both of their weapons were terrifying ultimate treasures. At this moment, they were extremely terrifying. Even though Underworld God was powerful and was at his peak, he was still forced to retreat. Underworld God had no choice but to retreat and temporarily avoid the attack. At this moment, Heavenly Cycle Master also attacked. The Heavenly Divination formation held the Underworld deity back, causing him to fly into a rage. "I'll stop this person. You guys attack with all your strength." Heavenly Cycle Master said telepathically. Wine Sword Immortal nodded. The next moment, he and Flame Immortal charged toward Song Imperial City again. This time, Ghost Immortal really couldn't resist. The 2 Earth Immortals tore through his defenses and charged into the Song Imperial City. With a sweep of the devouring sword, all the Nirvana Realm warriors in the Song Imperial City were reduced to ashes. A large amount of blood rained down, and miserable shrieks rang out. He drew his chasing sun bow again and shot a golden arrow at Ghost Immortal, sending him flying. Ghost Immortal's body fell to the ground. There were actually marks on it, and rubble fell down. Ghost Immortal was dumbfounded. To be honest, if he could move, he could cooperate with the Underworld God, and the 2 of them would definitely be able to hold their own. But now that he was petrified, he couldn't use any of his strength. Earth Vein Ghost, come out. With a roar of rage, the Ghost Immortal unleashed his final trump card. He refined a ghostly being from the Earth Vein. The ghost was extremely ferocious. It had 4 claws and crawled like a lizard. However, its head was that of a ghost, which was incomparably ferocious. There was also a vertical eye between his eyebrows. It was completely white, and it was abnormally frightening. It flew out from the Earth Vein and bit at the Flame Immortal. In an instant, the ghost swallowed the Flame Immortal whole. Then, its sharp teeth began to move rapidly. "Get lost!" The Flame Immortal's angry roar resounded through heaven and earth. Then he activated his chasing sun bow, and the terrifying power tore the ghost's head apart. The golden arrow flew out, and the ghost screamed. The Flame Immortal flew out. Lord Alcohol cast a black vortex and enveloped the Ghost Immortal. He said, "Stay here." The Ghost Immortal was stunned. Crack! He roared angrily, and the ghost tore apart. The Earth Vein was torn apart, and a surge of energy shot into the sky. The entire Song Imperial City seemed to be destroyed. Damn it! The Wine Sword Immortal's expression changed. He didn't expect the Ghost Immortal to be so crazy. He ignored the Ghost Immortal and quickly suppressed the Earth Vein. At the same time, a black vortex appeared and swallowed the destructive energy. The Flame Immortal also quickly retreated. One of his arms was covered in cracks. However, it wasn't fatal. His eyes shone brightly. He activated his chasing sun bow again and flew into the distance. The Ghost Immortal was dumbfounded. This guy still wouldn't let him go. Was he really going to be caught by him? Why didn't he say it? The Flame Immortal roared. The Ghost Immortal froze and seemed to have remembered something. The next moment he roared, "Sky Burial Valley." The thing you want is in Sky Burial Valley. Underworld immortal, take me away. You can't leave me in the lurch. The underworld god snorted. The underworld god, sword cut through heaven and earth. He reached out a hand from the black fog and grabbed the ghost immortal. He took him away. The flame immortal didn't chase after him. He had already gotten the information he wanted. Sky Burial Valley? It was beyond his expectation. The wine sword immortal also flew up, frowning. Damn it, he destroyed the earth vein. Fortunately, I used the devouring sword to suppress most of the energy. Otherwise, it would have been dangerous. The flame immortal said, I'll go back and ask him to repair the Emperor seal. We'll take charge of the Song Imperial City together. No problem. The wine sword immortal nodded. This was something that had already been discussed beforehand. The flame immortal went back. The Earth Emperor seal came. The Heavenly Cycle Master also came. He once again created a spatial passageway. When the two of them looked at the Song Imperial City, they frowned. It would take some time to tidy up the earth vein. Fortunately, you have the devouring sword. Besides, we have a heavenly master here. We can repair it. Otherwise, the city would be in danger. When the news came back, the people of the god realm exclaimed, Great! We took down another city. They had gained an absolute advantage. As expected, Xianyin and Xianming looked pale. The people of the Nirvana realm were in despair. Even the Song Imperial City was lost. They all wanted to retreat. The death god retreated. Xianyin and Xianming also wanted to retreat. The Sword Immortal also wanted to leave. However, Lin Zhan wouldn't let him leave. This time he had to kill him. In the distance, the battle was still going on. Lin Zhan's fighting spirit hadn't been extinguished. The Wine Sword Immortal stood in the ancient city and looked up. He said, It seems that I have to help him. Taoist friend, can we go together? The Flame Immortal didn't answer. He looked at the Emperor Seal. The Emperor Seal said, We can work together. However, I have a small request. When we go to the Sky Burial Valley in the future, I hope you and Lin Gongzi can go together and help us. No problem. Lord Alcohol nodded. He knew that the Yuhua Immortal Dynasty wanted to borrow the power of the Great Dragon Sword and the Devouring Sword. After all, the Sky Burial Valley was very strange. Okay, Flame Immortal, go and help the God Realm. The Flame Immortal took the chasing sun bow again. He and the Wine Sword Immortal flew into the sky. They didn't have to worry about the Song Imperial City. With the Emperor Seal here, no one could attack it. The appearance of Lord Alcohol and the Flame Immortal made the Sword Immortal's face turn ugly. The Xianyin and Xianming also roared, Let's go! If we don't go now, it will be too late. The Sword Immortal's soul and the sword art combined and turned into a shocking rainbow that shot into the distance. However, he was stopped by a vortex. Immediately after, a golden light appeared and turned into a fire dragon that tore the Sword Immortal's soul apart. The Sword Immortal was pierced by an arrow. He screamed, Ancient God Artifact! He was stunned. Chapter 60, 351. The change happened so suddenly that no one was able to react in time. Saber Immortal stopped, and his face looked terrible. His soul seemed to have been burned. That power almost tore him apart. Xianyin and Xianming also stopped and turned to look behind them. Then they were shocked. Ancient God Artifact. Fighting God was also surprised. He stared at the weapon and said, It's the sun chasing Bao. Yes, it's an ancient God artifact. So, Saber Immortal, you can't leave. Lord Alcohol walked over and sneered. Saber Immortal's face looked terrible. Fight! He roared, and sword energy swept in all directions. Xianyin and Xianming also rushed over. This time, even the virtual immortals came. Although he had half a soul, he had to fight at this moment. Boom! At this moment, in the distant eternal land, a thunderous palm stretched out, covering the sky and the earth. It crossed the void of the universe and came to the heavenly land. Its appearance made the people of the heavenly land overjoyed. Great! This was the power of heavenly punishment. The people of the godly realm frowned. The power of heavenly punishment had appeared again. Lin Jon walked out and said, "You guys deal with the others. Leave this Saber Immortal to me. I can deal with him alone." "You?" Saber Immortal sneered disdainfully. "You're no match for me." Lord Alcohol and the others were also worried. They said, "Let's work together and deal with Saber Immortal first." As soon as they said that, the second heavenly punishment hand appeared again. "Let's do it. We can't wait any longer." Fighting God's eyes burst with golden flames and killed a heavenly punishment hand. Lord Alcohol and the others also roared and charged quickly. Kill! The battle broke out instantly. Lin Jon faced Saber Immortal alone, and Saber Immortal was no longer afraid. The arrival of the two heavenly punishment hands was enough to change the situation. He looked at Lin Jon and said, "I killed you last time, and I can do it again this time. Also, I won't let you reincarnate. I'll let you see the real power of the immortal art." An extremely terrifying aura appeared on Saber Immortal's body. The huge saber light tore the sky and the earth. At this moment, all the worlds in the universe felt fear. A peerless saber, God slaying 7 tribulations. The blade slashed out, shattering the heavens and the earth. On the battlefield, the others retreated one after another, not daring to be enveloped by this power. Lin Jon was sent flying by the slash. His body fell into the void. "Ha!" The Saber Immortal sneered. "See that? You still can't block my saber. An ant will always be an ant. Whether it was in the previous life or now, you can't do it." Lord Alcohol and company began to worry. In the void, Lin Jon flew back. His face was pale, and there was blood at the corner of his mouth. However, he did not die. Only then did the people from God's domain heave a sigh of relief. The Saber Immortal frowned. It was beyond his expectations that the immortal art didn't kill the other party. But so what? He still had 6 slashes left. He promised that he would be able to kill his opponent within 3 strikes. However, he soon realized that Lin Jon's condition wasn't right. A figure appeared on Lin Jon's body. That figure was very blurry, as if it was a soul. The other party's soul was about to leave his body. "It doesn't look like this. What was it?" The others also noticed this and asked about it one after another. Lin Jon said, "This is my peerless fighting spirit. As long as my fighting spirit is not extinguished, I will exist forever." These words were too arrogant. Was there really anyone who could survive forever? "How long has it been since you became a land immortal? Today I will kill you. Let me see how you can survive forever." The Saber Immortal shouted angrily, and the 7 tribulations God-slaying saber slashed down again. This time, the 2 sabers struck out together. The 2 sabers carried the power of the heavenly tribulation. It was extremely vast and could destroy everything. It directly charged towards Lin Jon. Everyone was worried about Lin Jon again. Lin Jon snorted coldly. "Then you will also receive my self-created peerless technique, 9 transformations, fighting spirit." 3 transformations. The peerless fighting spirit in his body suddenly changed. It was as if it had gone through 3 reincarnations. Then it punched out. Boom! The 2 forces collided, creating a shocking explosion. Everything around was blown away by this aura. The other land immortals who were fighting also exclaimed, "Retreat quickly!" Their faces were filled with fear. So powerful. Lin Jon could actually create such a peerless technique. Whether it was the Nirvana realm or the people from God's domain, they were all stunned. He was really a combat genius. Whoosh! Amidst the shattered void, a figure was violently sent flying. Along the way, it smashed hundreds of mountains and finally landed on the ground. Who was it? Everyone held their breath. Soon, They realized that the figure who flew out was actually the Saber Immortal. The Saber Immortal was sent flying. How was this possible? The people from the Nirvana realm exclaimed. The virtual immortal roared. The Saber Immortal used an immortal technique. How is this possible? He can't beat that guy. In the sky, Lin Jon's figure appeared. At this moment, Lin Jon's face was a little pale. There was even sweat dripping down his body. Something was wrong. After Xianming saw it, he frowned tightly. He said, "This guy's attack seems to be consuming his soul and life. He is using his life to fight. The Saber Immortal is exhausting his life and soul." Xianming said telepathically, "Impossible." The Saber Immortal stood up from the ruins in the distance and shook the surrounding dust. He said, "I am the peerless Saber Immortal. I only used one saber to kill him last time. Now you want me to exhaust him to death? Are you slapping my face? I will use my strongest saber technique to kill him." The Saber Immortal had his own dignity. Terrifying thunder tribulation appeared on his body. This time he released 5 bolts in a row. 5 shadows circled around him. He directly charged towards Lin Jon. The 5 saber lights changed unpredictably and were much more powerful than before. The Saber Immortal admitted that he had underestimated his opponent. So this time he went all out. Boom! 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 Soon, the two of them started fighting. Deafening sounds could be heard. Everyone looked up at the sky. However, they were dumbfounded. Their eyes couldn't catch the movements of the two at all. It seemed that only the Land Immortals could see them. 5th rank fighting soul. Lin Jon roared. The peerless fighting soul on his body rotated 5 times. A vast and ancient aura spread out. His body shone brightly as he charged forward, like a comet hitting the ground. He charged towards the Saber Immortal. There was a violent vibration. The Saber Immortal was sent flying again. He kept spitting out blood from the corner of his mouth. He couldn't imagine. He went all out but still couldn't kill his opponent. He couldn't even block his opponent. How was this possible? The others were also shocked. Lin Jon's supernatural power is too powerful. Has it surpassed an immortal technique? Cough, cough. Although Lin Jon managed to push his opponent back, his body swayed a little. Then he vomited a large mouthful of blood. His face turned pale, and even his hair turned white. Xianming laughed when he saw this. "That's right. My guess is right. His supernatural power was at the cost of his life. The stronger the power of the divine ability, the more life he would lose. The price for this was his life." Chapter 6352. Lin Jon's self-created unique skill really shocked everyone. But soon, the people from the other side discovered that this unique skill had a fatal weakness. Therefore, they were confident that they could defeat Lin Jon. Lin Jon's current state was very bad. Lord Alcohol and the others said, "Don't use this unique skill again. Even if you are an Earth Immortal, you can't withstand this kind of consumption." No matter, the next punch would finish him off. Rank 7 fighting soul. Lin Jon's unique fighting soul rotated 7 times, and an even more terrifying power erupted. This time, he was confident that he could kill his opponent. The Saber Immortal's expression was extremely ugly. His immortal art had not been completed, so he could only slash out 5 times. Feeling that his opponent's aura had become stronger again, his expression was extremely ugly. This time he quickly retreated, wanting to dodge. However, Lin Jon's speed was beyond his imagination. Once the rank 7 fighting soul was released, Lin Jon's physique, strength, and speed had reached a new level. Even Lord Alcohol, the Flame Immortal, and the others were shocked. This time he might really be able to kill the Saber Immortal. The land of heaven was illuminated, and everything in the endless heaven and earth disappeared. Only a fist seemed to fly from the sky, piercing through the 9 heavens and charging forward. The Saber Immortal was in despair. The others wanted to make a move, but they were firmly held back by the people from the deity plane. However, at this critical moment, a hand of heaven's punishment suddenly appeared in front of the saber immortal. It enveloped the saber immortal in the palm. Boom! It was earth-shattering. Lightning filled the sky, and battle intent filled the sky. This fist swallowed the heaven and earth. At this moment, countless gazes were focused on the city of 1,000 blades. Lin Xian also raised his head. "Father!" He was also extremely nervous. When the light disappeared, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. It was terrifying to the extreme. The Heaven's Punishment Hand, formed by the Heaven's Punishment Sword, one of the 5 swords, was actually shattered. Countless fragments circled around him. Everyone was shocked. One had to know that in the face of this Heaven's Punishment Hand, any Earth Immortal would be facing a formidable enemy. Perhaps only the fighting god could face it calmly. But now, Lin Zhan's fist directly shattered the Heaven's Punishment Hand. One could imagine how terrifying the power of this fist was. However, Xianming and the others burst into loud laughter. The reason for that was because even though the Heavenly Punishment Palm had been shattered, however, the Saber Immortal was still alive. The Saber Immortal was enveloped in the Heavenly Punishment Palm. Therefore, he only suffered some minor injuries from the previous punch. The Saber Immortal also laughed ferociously. "Ha ha ha ha, can you still use that fist technique? You can't kill me. Next, I'll kill you one by one." He walked out of the shattered fragments, extremely pleased with himself. Puff! Lin Zhan vomited blood again. His body swayed, and more white hair appeared on his head. That punch just now had consumed too much of his life force and soul force. To be honest, it would be very difficult for him to throw that punch again. In fact, his body would not be able to recover in a short period of time. Only after a long period of secluded cultivation would he be able to return to his peak. He was fighting with his life on the line. Lin Zhan clenched his fists. He straightened his body and said loudly, "I live for battle and die for battle." So what if he died in battle? This was the fate of martial artists. Last time, I was only a great emperor. You killed me with one slash across the endless void. Now, I've become a land immortal. I must take revenge. Your body is petrified, and only your soul is left. This is the best opportunity. If I kill you, I can severely injure the Heavenly King. I can kill many birds with one stone. Therefore, no matter what, I won't let you go today." As Lin Zhan spoke, he looked into the distance at the fighting god, Lord Alcohol, and the others. He said, "Everyone, I'll kill a strong enemy for you first." 9th Transformation, Fighting Soul. The peerless fighting soul on Lin Zhan's body suddenly roared into the sky. It turned 9 times, and an extremely terrifying power erupted. At this moment, even the fighting god was moved. Xian Yin and Xianming's expressions changed drastically. What kind of power was this? Was this guy crazy? The peerless fighting soul merged with Lin Zhan. At this moment, he seemed to have turned into a god of war. He was extremely powerful. Kill. 9th Transformation, Divine Fist. One punch shocked the sky. Wherever it passed, gods and ghosts retreated. "No, Grand Elder, save me." The Saber Immortal no longer looked proud. He was terrified. The speed of this punch surpassed his, and he couldn't dodge it at all. He could only seek help from the second Heavenly Punishment Hand. The Heavenly Punishment Hand was indeed very fast. It instantly arrived in front of the Saber Immortal and enveloped him again. Boom! Boom! It destroyed the world. At this moment, even the land immortals retreated. This power was already enough to threaten them. They retreated to a very far place. They weren't fighting, but were watching nervously. This battle was indeed very crucial. If the Saber Immortal died, they probably wouldn't be able to continue fighting. The Saber Immortal was too important. Not only was he a land immortal, but he was also a land immortal who had mastered the immortal art. His death was a heavy blow to the Heavenly King. and if Lin Zhan died in battle, they would launch a large-scale counterattack. Everyone was waiting for the destructive aura in front of them to disappear. Finally, the destructive power slowly dissipated. Millions of black holes appeared between heaven and earth, and cracks were everywhere. How was it? Who won? The people from both sides looked carefully, but they were soon stunned, because they realized that there was no one in the void at all. There were many broken thunderbolts around them. Those were formed after the heavenly punishment hand was shattered. The fragments scattered all over the sky. And among those fragments, there was no sign of the saber immortal. Was he dead? Xian Yin and Xian Ming couldn't believe it. The virtual immortals and the others also exclaimed. They hurriedly searched everywhere. Soon, they found a broken saber. This was the saber of the saber immortal. This saber was actually broken into two halves. They had a bad premonition in their hearts. As a swordsman, if the saber existed, the person would exist. If the saber died, the person would die. Even the saber was broken. Could the saber immortal still live? Indeed, they couldn't find the saber immortal's figure anymore. The saber immortal's soul had been destroyed. They were all stunned. The saber immortal was so terrifying that they couldn't even defeat him in a one-on-one battle. If they joined forces, they could suppress the saber immortal. But could they kill the saber immortal? The answer was definitely impossible. But now, someone killed the saber immortal with a punch. This person was killed by the saber immortal in his previous life. Now, the situation was reversed. What kind of terrifying combat genius was Lin Zhan? Xian Yin and Xian Ming's expressions were also extremely ugly. The fighting god also said, "This punch is the strongest punch I have ever seen among the land immortals." This evaluation shocked countless people. The strongest punch of a land immortal? No one could surpass this punch? That's great. Lord Alcohol and the others laughed loudly. Lin Zhan won. But where was Lin Zhan? They quickly searched. Suddenly, the wine sword immortal's expression changed. He waved his hand, and a black vortex swallowed a large mountain in front of him. In the ruins, Lin Zhan's figure appeared. At this moment, Lin Zhan's hair was white. He fell to the ground, and his aura was weak. His qi, blood, and vitality had reached the freezing point. Chapter 63:53. Lin Zhan's situation was beyond everyone's expectations because they realized that Lin Zhan was about to die. What was going on? At this moment, Lord Alcohol, the fighting god, and the others all teleported to Lin Zhan's side. They probed. The fighting god and Lord Alcohol attacked one after another to maintain Lin Zhan's vitality. But they realized that it didn't seem to be of much use. The war god said, "That punch just now, he exhausted all of his life force to deliver it. After that punch, he didn't plan to live anymore." Lord Alcohol was also anxious. What a lunatic. This is a suicidal attack. What's the difference between this and self-destruction? No. The fighting god shook his head and said, "This is much more terrifying than the power of self-destruction." In the distance, the Guanghan immortal also flew over. Her eyes were red. She rushed to Lin Zhan's side and said, "Are you okay?" She took out all kinds of heavenly treasures. Powerful vitality surrounded Lin Zhan. However, Lin Zhan's body seemed to be unable to absorb it. At this moment, a fighting soul world appeared in Lin Zhan's body. At this moment, the fighting soul world was full of cracks. Then it shattered. The world created by the other party was also broken. And in this broken world, another figure landed. It was a middle-aged woman. She didn't have any powerful strength. As soon as she appeared, she looked at Lin Zhan and cried, "Husband, what's wrong?" This person was Lin Zhan's wife. Father, Lin Xian finally couldn't hold it in anymore. He stopped collecting the city of 10,000 blades. Instead, he rushed over and turned into a sword light. "Xian, how is your father?" The middle-aged woman looked at Lin Xian. Mother, don't worry. Let me do it. Lin Xian took out the heavenly spring of life and poured it into Lin Zhan's body. The heavenly spring of life was very strange and had always been in the sword world. At this moment, it slowly merged into Lin Zhan's body. Great, it's effective. It's not enough. Hurry up and take it out. The Guanghan immortal beside him also said anxiously. Lin Xian had an idea. He directly put Lin Zhan away and sent him into the sword world. Instead of taking out the heavenly spring of life, he might as well put Lin Zhan on it. Use the water from the holy spring of life to slowly heal Lin Zhan's body. The next moment, Lin Xian said to the middle-aged woman, Mother, go take care of my father. With that, he also sent the other party into the sword world. Where did he go? Guanghan Immortal was extremely shocked. She couldn't sense any aura. It had completely disappeared. She stared at Lin Xian. Not only her, but the people from the other world, Heavenly King, also had strange expressions on their faces. Does this kid have any other treasures on him? Don't worry, it should be fine. Lin Xian heaved a sigh of relief. Luckily, he had the ancient land. If not, Lin Zhan would really be dead this time. That punch just now was really too terrifying. In the future, he would never allow his father to execute this punch again. It was really a suicidal move. Lord Alcohol also said, Fairy Guanghan, don't worry. Lin Zhan's life is no longer in danger. However, he had used up too much energy. It would take some time for him to recover. Let's work together to chase Higgin away. With that, they turned around and looked at the remaining people. The few people from the Higgin, Heavenly King, had extremely ugly expressions. Was Lin Zhan dead or not? They didn't know. However, the Saber Immortal was already dead. This was a huge blow to them. Xian Ming waved his hand and grabbed the broken saber in his hand. Then he said, Let's go. The Saber Immortal was dead. The city of 1,000 sabers was lost, and even the 2 heavenly punishment hands were destroyed. If they continued to fight, they wouldn't have any advantage at all. Who knew if these lunatics from the divine realm still had other ways to perish together? Therefore, they didn't dare to fight anymore. The group of people quickly left. When the battle ended, the world was shocked. The Saber Immortal was dead. The Higgin, Heavenly King, lost again. The divine realm actually suppressed the Higgin, Heavenly King. The news swept across the heavens and realms like a storm. At this moment, countless people went crazy. This was really a legendary battle. The people of the divine realm cheered. The Higgin, Heavenly King, retreated. The fall of the Saber Immortal was indeed a huge blow to the Higgin, Heavenly King. In the Eternal Land, countless people felt fear and despair. That was the Saber Immortal. He had cultivated the immortal art, but now he was dead. He was killed by a punch. The Grand Elder was also very angry. Lin Zhan. This was the first time he remembered this name. Previously, he only knew Xian Yuan, the fighting god, and a few others from the divine realm. As for Lin Zhan, in his opinion, so what if he was a land immortal? He was just an ant. He could turn into ashes with a flick of his finger. However, Lin Zhan's performance in this battle was really beyond his expectations. 9th Transformation, War Soul. The other party could actually create such a terrifying, unique skill. Even if he died, his name would go down in history. The Saber Immortal's defeat was not unjust. His 2 heavenly punishment hands were both shattered by the other party. However, this battle was indeed defeated too quickly. The Grand Elder's expression was extremely cold. He came to a forbidden land for life. There was a statue there. It was the statue of the Saber Immortal. At this moment, this statue had no aura at all. The other party was dead. The Grand Elder reached out and grabbed the statue. Then he brought it to another place. This was also the Eternal Land. Moreover, it was deep in the Eternal Land. There was a vast land. There were no mountains or trees around it. There were only stone tablets. These stone tablets were all tombstones. This was the place where the powerhouses of the Nirvana realm were buried after they died. All these years, the Nirvana realm had always been the overlord of the universe and swept across the universe. However, the war was tragic. Countless powerhouses still died. Every person who died had a tombstone here. Of course, the corpses of the dead powerhouses might be used. The Grand Elder stood there and waited. He waited for the change between day and night. Yin and Yang split. When night came and day disappeared, a very magical and strange scene appeared in the entire cemetery. It was like a yin-yang diagram that was divided into two spaces, black and white. And at the intersection there was an empty space. The Grand Elder walked there and used his hand to split open the ground. He placed the statue of the Saber Immortal inside. The Grand Elder did not say anything. The only thing he could do was not to waste the body of the Saber Immortal. Even if he died, he had to be used by him. After doing all this, the Grand Elder left. The entire cemetery fell silent again. There was no movement at all. There was not a trace of wind. It was as if it had turned into eternity. The Grand Elder appeared in front of everyone again. Countless people knelt down. Even the virtual immortal asked the Grand Elder to personally make a move. However, the Grand Elder said, "Come back. Retreat to the eternal land. Also, ask the Fox Immortal to come back. Give up all the ancient cities outside." Everyone was shocked. The virtual immortal and the others also suddenly raised their heads. Give up all the ancient cities. Are we really going to admit defeat? We have indeed lost this round, but so what? Don't be led by the divine realm. Let's start a new plan. A temporary victory or defeat is nothing. The person who laughs in the end is the winner. The Grand Elder's eyes burst out with a piercing cold light. Chapter 63-54. The Otherworld, Heavenly King, retreated to the Eternal Land. They gave up the 9th Serenity Land and some ancient cities in the Heavenly Land. This scene caused an uproar in all the worlds. They all guessed, is the Otherworld, Heavenly King, really injured? There was nothing they could do. Even the people from the deity realm were frowning. At first, they thought that this was a conspiracy. They arrived at the city guarded by Fox Immortal, which had already become an empty city. They sent some clones there. The people from the godly realm formed hand seals. The godly fire and immortal chi on them formed all kinds of clones and flew forward. Zhou Tianshi opened the array himself. The array in the ancient city flashed. Their clones rushed in. However, they didn't get attacked. Did they really leave like this? That's impossible. Suddenly, an earth-shattering sound came from the ancient city. Then, a destructive aura filled the air. Several earth vein sword chi flew out from the earth vein under the ground. They split the clones in half. The people from the godly realm outside looked terrible. I knew it. There was a trap. Humph, the Otherworld, Heavenly King, was despicable. How could they fool us with an empty city? Luckily, they were cautious enough. However, according to the information from the clones, they were surprised that there was no one inside. Did the Otherworld, Heavenly King, destroy the earth vein? It wasn't just the earth vein. The Empress frowned. She waved her snake tail. At the same time, a cold light appeared in her eyes. She checked and said, "It's poisonous. There's a terrible poison in the ancient city." That's right. The Otherworld, Heavenly King, did set up many traps in the ancient cities. First, they destroyed the earth vein. Then they poisoned the cities. Even if they couldn't use it, they wouldn't leave it to the godly realm. They could break the trap. The Wine Sword Immortal said, "Let's take these ancient cities slowly." At the same time, they were sure that the Otherworld, Heavenly King, was seriously injured this time. They withdrew all their people to the Eternal Land. After they took these ancient cities, they would cultivate a new force. Then they would attack the Eternal Land. The Eternal Land formed all kinds of arrays to defend against everything. They didn't seem to be coming out anymore. Fox Immortal came back from the Eternal Land. she said coldly. It's enough to keep them busy for a while. However, without the ley lines, how are we going to cultivate? Lord Supreme, can you activate some of the ancient cities in the Eternal Land? On this day, the Grand Supreme summoned them back. Of the original 5 land immortals, only 3 were left. Master Rashi was suppressed and Blade Immortal was destroyed. Therefore, only the Fox Immortal, Ghost Immortal, and half of the Virtual Immortal soul were left. In the state of a Virtual Immortal, even cultivation was a problem. If the other party wanted to cultivate, he could take 2 paths. One was to completely give up on his body. However, his strength would be greatly reduced. The second was to return to his body. In that case, all the effort he had put in before would have been in vain. As for Fox Immortal and Ghost Immortal, Grand Supreme had other plans. He was prepared to send one of them to Immortal City. Hearing this, the 2 land immortals frowned. Who's going? To be honest, no one wanted to go to Immortal City. The Grand Elder ignored him and began to contact Black Lotus secretly. In Immortal City, there was a Permitha Black Lotus. It had 4 strands of immortal chi, and its strength was shocking. However, the other party did not appear in this battle because the other party was being watched by the mortal god. No matter where he went, the mortal god was watching him. This made Black Lotus almost go crazy. On this day, he received the Grand Supreme's voice transmission. Let a land immortal come over? That's good too. Now, several guardians of the 9 heavens have disappeared. It just so happened that there was a lack of land immortals. Let him come over to guard a heaven. He can absorb the source of power of that heaven. I can also give him some pointers. As for who to send, I've been very annoyed recently. Don't let that thing that's neither human nor ghost come. Let Fox Immortal come over. He was in a good mood after seeing a beauty. When the Grand Supreme heard this, he nodded slightly. Then he looked at Fox Immortal and said, "Get ready. You will go to Immortal City. There is immortal power there. If you can grasp a little of it, you will definitely benefit greatly." Yes, although Fox Immortal was unwilling to go, she couldn't refute the Grand Supreme's order. As for how to go, she wasn't worried that Black Lotus would take her over. The mortal god had been watching Black Lotus. Therefore, after receiving this information, he told Lin Xian. After Lin Xian heard this, he frowned and told the news to Lord Alcohol and the others. To be honest, the fact that there was a Black Lotus in Immortal City was indeed out of their expectations. This was because this Black Lotus was very strong. Fortunately, it was restrained by someone. Now, the Permitha was going to send another land immortal over. If he really broke through and grew up, he would be the second person with 4 strands of immortal chi. No, they couldn't let the other party get what he wanted. Since the other party had left the broken ancient city for them, they had to use some methods to restrain the other party. In the end, Xian Yuan took action again. The mysterious man in white walked in the air. He directly talked to the immortal hand. It had to be said that Xian Yuan was really too powerful and too mysterious. He didn't know what he said to the immortal hand. But in the end, the immortal hand actually agreed. It began to seal Immortal City to prevent other forces from entering. Black Lotus was rejected and roared in horror. Damn it, what's going on? The immortal hand was actually targeting him. He was so angry that he flew into a rage. In the end, he had no choice but to return to Immortal City. He didn't want to leave for the time being. Therefore, he sent a voice transmission to the Grand Supreme. "I can't come here." After the Grand Supreme heard this, his face darkened. Xuanyuan's method? Very good. But do you think that's the only way I can think of? Just you wait. Just you wait. Just you wait for my wrath. The Grand Supreme was so angry that he sneered. He summoned Fox Immortal and said, "You don't have to go to Immortal City." Fox Immortal secretly heaved a sigh of relief, but still felt troubled. "Then do I have to cultivate in Immortal City?" The Grand Supreme said, "No, wait first. I've calculated that it won't be long before the power of Heaven's Jade Green City opens. At that time, I'll send you to Jade Green City. Yes, Fox Immortal left and began to wait. In the myriad worlds, there was another force, and that was the Supreme Palace. The Supreme Palace had also suffered heavy losses this time. Other than the 2 land immortals who returned, most of the other experts they sent out had died. However, this time they received an extremely important piece of information. The divine realm actually had a heavenly master. Moreover, it was an unharmed heavenly master. The god of death and the god of the underworld passed this news to their supreme existence, the High Lord. Not long after, the High Lord gave the order to prepare a hunting plan. There weren't many heavenly masters, and only one appeared in several eras. However, after countless years, some powerful heavenly masters had indeed appeared in the world. Their methods were heaven-defying, and their strength was astonishing. However, these heavenly masters all ended up very miserably in the end. They either mysteriously disappeared, or completely turned into lunatics. Everyone said that heavenly masters were not tolerated by heaven and earth. However, they didn't expect that the Supreme Palace was behind this. Chapter 63:55. The Supreme Palace did not act rashly, because this heavenly cycle master was not an ordinary heavenly cycle master, but an earth immortal. His strength was far more terrifying than the previous heavenly cycle masters. They had to plan well. In the true spirit world, the flame immortal returned to the Yuhua immortal dynasty. He also brought a shocking news. It turned out that the thing they were looking for was in Sky Burial Valley. When this news came out, the sleeping powerhouses of the Yuhua immortal dynasty were shocked. Sky Burial Valley was a terrifying place. Even Earth immortals did not dare to enter. It was there. Damn it, why was it there? Let's get ready. When the time is right, we will enter Sky Burial Valley. They sent some powerhouses to the Song Imperial City. They had previously agreed with the deity realm that half of the Song Imperial City's earth veins belonged to them. This time, the entire universe temporarily quieted down. There was no earth-shattering battle. They had entered an era of peace. However, everyone knew that the heavenly cycle master would not let this matter rest. The other party had never suffered such a loss before. They would definitely fight back. The deity realm would not stop advancing. Once they started another war, it would be even more terrifying. The deity realm began to rest and recuperate. Although they had won this battle, they had paid a great price. Many powerhouses had fallen. On the Phoenix clan's side, the old Phoenix had died. The Yi clan's patriarch had died. On the Gu clan's side, several grand elders had also fallen. Morong Qingcheng looked sad. The old Phoenix was once her master. She had buried her with her own hands. However, she knew that the old Phoenix would definitely appear in this world again. The Phoenix clan would undergo nirvana. The old Phoenix would not truly die. She would only be reincarnated. The Phoenix clan's people were sad, but they soon became excited. Morong Qingcheng took over the Phoenix clan and became the new patriarch of the Phoenix clan. On the other side, Yi Wudao took over the position of patriarch of the Yi clan. He would lead the Yi clan forward. At the same time, Gu Santong took over the position of patriarch of the Gu clan. They were all from the younger generation, but they had already grown into unparalleled powerhouses. Heavenly Titan, Yan Ryu returned to the Demon Emperor Mountain and continued to cultivate. She had become the new Demon Emperor. The North Demon brought his sister to cultivate in Abyss Ancient City. Black Mountain stayed in the Heavenly Court. However, he had been collecting resources from various worlds and growing rapidly. It seemed that he really wanted to become the Witch of the Black Mountain. The monkey Sun Qitian left the City of 1,000 Blades. With the help of the battle god and Shen Yuan, he entered the Immortal City. Firstly, he wanted to continue training himself in preparation for the upcoming battle. Moreover, he also wanted to explore the secrets of immortality. After all, his father's petrification had yet to be completed. Only his hands could move. The parts below his hands were still in a petrified state. He wanted his father to break through as soon as possible. Zhong Lingxiu never came out. The other one was Shen Jingqiu. Lin Xian was also worried about Shen Jingqiu's disappearance. Lin Xian had sent people from the Divine Union to various parts of the universe to investigate. He was very busy at the moment. Lin Xian was currently taking over the city of 10,000 blades. After removing the saber intent of the city of 10,000 sabers, he began to plant his own sword qi. At this moment, surge after surge of sword qi floated beneath the ground, intending to fuse with the earth vein to form a massive sword. Once it was formed, this ancient city would be renamed as the City of 10,000 Swords. As for him, he was the guardian of the city. His sword world was also the ancient land. Under the heavenly tree, the sacred spring of life surged. There was a withered figure with a head of white hair. It was Lin Zhan. Lin Zhan was finally rescued. He was not dead, but slowly recovering. Beside Lin Zhan was Lin Xian's mother, who had been taking care of Lin Zhan. Lin Xian had also investigated his mother's condition. He realized that his mother's condition was very strange. His father must have made a move to change his mother's condition. This was because his mother did not have much fighting strength. However, her life was very long. That state was immortality. As for how it was done, Lin Xian did not know. However, Lin Xian was completely relieved. His parents were in the ancient land. They were extremely safe. Moreover, Little White Inside could also accompany his parents. During this period, Lord Alcohol came once. Guang Hanxian had been staying in the city of 10,000 blades. Lin Xian wanted her to go in and take a look. However, Guang Hanxian shook his head in the end. No, it's fine as long as he's alive. Guang Hanxian left. Everyone had their own lives, and everyone was working hard to move forward. In the blink of an eye, 100 years had passed. On this day, Lin Xian opened his eyes. He said, "It's done." With a wave of his hand, tens of thousands of swords danced. The entire ancient city was enveloped by endless sword energy. Lin Xian roared to the sky. This city is called the City of 10,000 Swords. The terrifying sword energy pierced through heaven and earth, sweeping through the wind and clouds. Everyone in the universe was shocked. They could feel an incomparably sharp aura. Shangqing City, Song Imperial City, Jiu Ancient City, Divine Sect, Yi Family, Gu Family, Phoenix Race, Demon Emperor Mountain, etc. Those people were all looking into the distance. Then figures rushed over. They were going to congratulate Lin Xian. In the City of 10,000 Swords, everyone was extremely excited. Great, we finally succeeded. From now on, this ancient city truly belonged to them. Buzz, the dragon sword soul flew out from the earth vein and returned to Lin Xian's body. At the same time, Lin Xian felt that he seemed to have merged with the entire earth vein. A vast amount of energy rushed towards him. With a boom, Lin Xian felt the blood in his body churning. The powerful aura was about to tear his body apart. Was he going to break through? He roared to the sky, his voice shaking the 9 heavens. "I'll be right back." He tore open the void and entered the sword world. "Xian his mother exclaimed when she saw this. Lin Xian said, "Mother, don't worry. I'm going to break through." With that, he flew into the depths of the sword world. The ancient land was also one of the 9 heavens and 10 lands. Breaking through here could avoid the attack of the heavenly punishment. Not long after, lightning fell from the sky. Lin Xian fought with the lightning, tempering his immortal power, 9 yang divine body and dragon sword soul. Outside, the City of 10,000 Swords had already welcomed many people. Yan Ruyu, Murong Qingqing, Yi Wudao, Gu Santong and others had all arrived. "Where's Brother Xian?" Murong Qingqing was overjoyed. She hadn't seen Lin Xian for a long time. The toad said that the kid had broken through and gone to transcend the tribulation. He was going to break through. Middle stage Emperor Realm. Yi Wudao exclaimed, "This speed is really fast." Gu Santong also said, "I just became a great emperor. It seems that the gap is getting bigger and bigger." Indeed, Lin Xian's breakthrough speed was too fast. One had to know that it was difficult for an ordinary great emperor to break through without tens of thousands of years. Lin Xian only used a few hundred years to break through. This speed was heaven-defying. However, thinking about it, how many battles had Lin Xian experienced along the way? Any random battle in the past would have been a battle that would have shocked the ages. However, Lin Xian had experienced all of them. Now, it was reasonable for him to break through quickly. Yi Wudao said, "After Lin Xian breaks through, I have to spar with him." "Let's see how much he surpassed." Yan Ryu said, "You're also a battle maniac. I think we should prepare. Give him a surprise." Chapter 63-56. On the other side in the Eternal Land. In front of Taishang there was a mysterious starry sky map that seemed to contain everything. Ordinary great emperors couldn't understand the changes on the starry sky map. However, the corner of the Grand Supreme's mouth curled up into a smile. "It's open. It's time." He found Xianming. Emerald Jade City will open soon. When the time comes, go to the Sword God's palace and invite their most outstanding sword genius. Tell him about the dragon's sword soul. I think they'll be very interested. What do you do next? You don't need me to teach you, do you? You must make the Sword God's palace hate the God Realm. Yes. Xianming left. He set off for the heavenly land. He walked very carefully. He wore the biggest black robe and hid his aura. The people in the heavenly land didn't know about this yet. City of 10,000 swords. Lin Xian had already come out. Previously in the Eternal Land, he had finally broken through to the mid-stage of the Emperor Realm. His strength had undergone an earth-shaking change. Once again, Lin Xian came out of the myriad sword city, and his aura had grown several times stronger. A vast energy swept out, and everyone in the city sensed it. They all held their breaths. So powerful. Even Yi Wudao Gusantong and the others were forced back by the force of the attack. "So powerful!" Yi Wudao exclaimed. "You've surpassed many super great emperors. Brother Lin, how strong are you now?" Gusantong was also surprised. They knew that Lin Xian had many trump cards and was very strong. He could kill super great emperors. However, super great emperors were divided into different realms. Lin Xian could kill early-stage super great emperors and fight mid-stage super great emperors. However, he might not be able to defeat late-stage super great emperors. But now, it seemed that he could fight late-stage super great emperors. Lin Xian smiled. "I don't know the details, but I think there are few opponents below the Earth Immortal Realm." This was arrogant. However, Lin Xian was qualified to say so. "That's great." Murong Qingcheng, Yan Ruyu, and the others also came up to congratulate him. Lin Xian smiled. "Why are you all here?" "We haven't gotten together in a long time. Let's get drunk today." The city of 10,000 swords was filled with jubilation and joy. The news of Lin Xian's breakthrough also spread to the other ancient cities. Immediately, the people of the sacred realm were overjoyed. Great! Lin Wudi was the descendant of the great dragon. The stronger his opponent was, the more he would be able to utilize the power of the great dragon's sword soul. Lord Alcohol was extremely gratified. "Great, that's great," the Golden Lion King said. "With his strength, there aren't many people below Earth Immortal who can suppress him." However, the Empress said, it is still impossible to defeat an Earth Immortal. Indeed, although Lin Xian had fought against an Earth Immortal before, he was still able to defeat an Earth Immortal. However, that was only under special circumstances, all of them relying on the undying flame, this type of miraculous thing. However, the other party's strength was not enough to contend against him. Lord Alcohol said, "It looks like it's time for him to find that thing." "Senior, are you talking about the great dragon sword?" the Golden Lion King asked. Lord Alcohol nodded. "That's right. The 5 swords of the world are extremely powerful. Lin Xian had grasped the great dragon sword, but it was only the sword soul. If he could find the great dragon sword and fuse the two, he would be able to form the true 5 swords of the world. At that time, he would definitely be able to contend against an Earth Immortal and even kill one. However, wasn't the great dragon sword broken back then? They knew how powerful the great dragon sword was when it swept across the world. At that time, the 9 serenities opened, and countless experts wanted to rush into the universe. However, they were killed by the great dragon sword. Even an Earth Immortal was no match for it. However, after that, the great dragon sword seemed to have disappeared. When it reappeared, only the sword soul was left. Actually, there are some things that you don't know. When they fought in the 9 serenities, the great dragon sword was not complete. The great dragon sword had been broken a long time ago. However, if they could find a part of it, they could also increase the power of the great dragon sword. They had to discuss this matter with Xian Yuan. Lord Alcohol set off for the oblique moon cave. After Xian Yuan heard this, he also said, "Indeed, it's time to go and collect the great dragon sword. However, we have to wait for the right time." The great dragon sword was extremely unusual when it was shattered back then. Now that the time isn't right, I'm afraid we can't take action yet. Boom, boom, boom. Just as he finished speaking, the entire heavenly land trembled violently. The oblique moon cave also shook violently. Under the Bodhi tree, the war god opened his eyes and looked through the world with his fiery, golden eyes. Lord Alcohol's expression also changed. What's going on? Is the other world, Heavenly King, attacking again? As if he was facing a great enemy. Many black vortexes appeared around him. Xian Yuan even flew up. However, they were soon stunned. There were no powerhouses from the other world, Heavenly King, in the Heavenly Land. If it wasn't from the other world, Heavenly King, who could it be? The Supreme Palace? No. The Yuhua Immortal Dynasty? That wasn't it either. There wasn't a single powerhouse. And this aura came from the depths of the Heavenly Land. Could it be? Xian Yuan thought of a possibility. The war god said it has appeared. It's Yuqing City. It actually appeared at this time. Xian Yuan was too surprised. Not only him, but Lord Alcohol was also extremely surprised. Has Yuqing City appeared? It was really unexpected. The ancient city they were in was Shangqing City. However, this wasn't the only ancient city in the Heavenly Land. Other than that, there was also Lin Xian's city of 10,000 swords. Of course, there were a few ancient cities that were exceptionally mysterious. Shangqing City was one of them, and the current Yuqing City was also more important. Yuqing City was different from Shangqing City. There was no one in Shangqing City, so it was very easy to attack it. But inside Yuqing City, it was equivalent to a world, an extremely ancient world that had been passed down for a long time. Now that Yuqing City had opened, it would probably cause another storm. Would the other world, Heavenly King, make a move? Would they join forces with some ancient existences in Yuqing City? All of this was unknown. Moreover, there was something more important. It was very likely that Yuqing City had a fragment of the great dragon sword. I didn't expect it to open. Then let Lin Xian go. I gave him a black ring before. With that black ring, he should be able to discover the aura of the great dragon sword. I hope he can gain something in Yuqing City. Xian Yuan said. Lord Alcohol nodded and said, "Then I'll go first and tell Kid Lin." Lord Alcohol left and headed to the city of 10,000 swords. At the same time, the people in the Heavenly Land were all stunned. The people of Shangqing City were shocked, as if they were facing a great enemy. The countless geniuses of 10,000 swords were also frowning. Yi Wudao said, "Could it be that the enemy is coming again?" "Prepare for battle." Lin Xian gave the order, and 10,000 swords in the city of 10,000 swords shot out, ready to launch a peerless attack at any time. However, after waiting for a long time, they didn't find the enemy. At this moment, Lord Alcohol came and said, "Things aren't what you think." "It's Lord Alcohol." "Greetings, Senior." The others bowed respectfully. "Lord Alcohol, what happened? What was that vibration just now?" Lin Xian asked. Chapter 63-57. Lin Xian was not the only one who was curious. Everyone was curious as to what that terrifying power was. Were there any other secrets in the heavenly land? Lord Alcohol said, "Since you're all here, I'll tell you all at once." Jade Pure City opened. Jade Pure City? What was that? Was it also an ancient city? Why would it be so terrifying when it was activated? Yen Ryu asked. The others were also puzzled. Lord Alcohol said that Jade Pure City was an extremely mysterious and terrifying ancient city. It was different from other ancient cities. There were warriors and families in Jade Pure City. It was equivalent to a world. The earth veins in Jade Pure City were not weaker than those in our Shangqing City. In fact, they were even stronger. After everyone heard this, they gasped. Now, the Divine Realm had many ancient cities under their control. Therefore, the strength of each ancient city was compared. Among them, the most powerful was Shangqing City. No ancient city could surpass it. However, a city had appeared that was not weaker than Shangqing City. In fact, it was even more terrifying. Moreover, there were countless warriors and families in this ancient city. Lin Xian said, "Isn't that the same as a mortal city?" "Almost. But Jade Pure City did not have a mortal power." Yi Wudao asked, "Will its appearance bring any changes?" Lord Alcohol said, "I want to talk about this. The appearance of Jade Pure City will definitely bring about some changes." "What is the other side doing?" "We don't know yet, but we have to take action." With that, he looked at Lin Xian and said, "We discussed it before. Now you are very strong. However, you can't threaten the Earth Immortal. If you want to threaten the Earth Immortal, you have to find the Great Dragon Sword." "Great Dragon Sword. Do you have any clues?" Lin Xian now had the Great Dragon Sword soul, but he did not have the Great Dragon Sword itself. Wasn't the Great Dragon Sword broken back then? However, even if it was a fragment, it would still be extremely terrifying if he could control it. Back then, the Great Dragon Sword fought everywhere. After it was broken, it fell in different places. However, as far as we know, Jade Pure City has the fragment of the Great Dragon Sword. Therefore, you have to enter Jade Pure City to find the fragment of the Great Dragon Sword. As for clues, the black ring that Master Xianyuan gave you back, then, is a clue. Lin Xian suddenly understood. So that's how it is. That black ring is used to find the Great Dragon Sword. Leaf Dowdenier asked, "Senior, can we enter clear Jade City?" From the looks of it, pristine Jade City was a new ancient city. It was filled with unknowns and challenges. Of course he could. However, he had to be extremely careful. All right, you guys should prepare yourselves. Once clear Jade City has completely stabilized, you guys can set off. Lin Xian and the others nodded. Then they became excited. A new ancient city. He wondered how powerful the people inside were. Are there any land immortals? Lin Xian, Leaf Dowdenier, and the others had all been to Immortal City. They knew how terrifying Immortal City was. There were even a few Earth immortals. Therefore, this time he really had to prepare well. The appearance of Jade, clear Jade City, wasn't only seen by the deity realm. The Permetha realm, the Paragon Hall, and the Yuhua Immortal Dynasty all knew about it. In addition, the people of the universe were also shocked. They felt a mysterious and terrifying power. It wouldn't be long before these families and sects sent powerhouses to investigate. The people of the Paragon Hall were surprised. Has it opened? It's really unexpected. They decided to send people. Outside Clear Jade City, there were already people waiting. They were the people of the Permitha realm. On the other side, Xianming had been waiting silently. On this day, when he saw Clear Jade City appear, he was shocked. When he saw Clear Jade City, a cold light appeared in his eyes. Then his figure flashed and rushed forward. In Clear Jade City, there were naturally countless families and sections. They also sensed this situation. However, they weren't very excited or surprised, because one city was one world. In their opinion, their Clear Jade City was the strongest in the universe. The people outside were nothing to be afraid of. This kind of thinking was very normal. Didn't the people of Immortal City look invincible? They looked down on those intruders. Sword God Palace. In Clear Jade City, there was a supreme overlord. The strongest person in Sword God Palace. The Sword God was a land immortal. No one dared to provoke him. At this moment, countless sword lights were flying in Sword God Palace. These were all swordsmen, peerless swordsmen. The sword energy on their bodies was extremely terrifying, and one of them was even more powerful. The shocking sword light on his body was as dazzling as the stars. It instantly tore the world apart. The person fighting with him was forced back and spat out a mouthful of blood. This tall man wore a purple crown. He shook his head slightly and said, "You're no match for me in a one-on-one fight. Come together." 5 figures walked out. They roared and attacked quickly. Their piercing sword energy tore the world apart. They charged toward the man with the purple crown. The man sneered. He waved his long sword and slashed in all directions. The 2 sides fought. Not long after, the 5 people were forced back. The tall man seemed to be invincible with a sword in his hand. The 5 people cupped their fists and said, "We're no match for the Sword Emperor." Senior brother Sword Emperor, no one in Sword God Palace is your match. Except for land immortals, you're invincible. These people admired the man in front of them. He was called the Sword Emperor. The Emperor of Swords, he was indeed worthy of this title. Now in Sword God Palace, other than the Sword God, it was the most powerful one. Even the older generation powerhouses were no match for it. The tall man with the purple crown withdrew his long sword. He stood with his hands behind his back and said lightly, "It's really lonely to be invincible." At this moment, an extremely terrifying aura came from Sword God Palace. It made people's hair stand on end. Even the Sword Soul's pupils shrank. He was facing a great enemy. His sword energy soared into the sky. Such terrifying power. It was the power of a land immortal. Was someone attacking the Sword God's palace? Did they want to die? At the same time, an even more piercing sword energy came from the depths of Sword God Palace. This sword energy surpassed the previous Sword Soul. It was the power of the Sword God. The Sword God's sword shattered the world. The void cracked. A black-robed man appeared above the crowd. The black-robed man laughed. "Taoist friend, don't be angry. I'm here on the Grand Supreme's order." Hearing this, the Sword God's power disappeared. He was surprised. "You're from Permitha. Please." The Sword God quickly invited him in. The black-robed man flashed and disappeared. The people of Sword God Palace were in an uproar. Is he a land immortal? Who is the Grand Supreme? All kinds of confused voices sounded. The Sword Emperor didn't say anything. He just clenched his fists. Was he really invincible? Even if he was just below the land immortal. His goal was to become a land immortal. But how difficult was it to break through this step? Even he wasn't sure. Chapter 63:58. 3 days later, the black-robed man walked out from the depths of the Sword God Palace. This person was Xianming. The corner of his mouth raised into a smile. It was done. Next, he would go to find the Sword Emperor. At this moment, the Sword Emperor was still cultivating. He wanted to break through and become an Earth Immortal. At this moment, he suddenly felt his hair stand on end. He felt a black-robed man appear behind him. Who was it? With an angry shout, he slashed out with his sword, but his sword was easily blocked. "It's you." "Greetings, Senior." He knew that the person in front of him was an Earth Immortal on the same level as the ancestor. Xianming looked at the Sword Emperor and kept nodding. "Not bad, not bad. When I was talking to the Sword God, he kept mentioning you. He said that you are the future hope of the Sword God Palace. Now that I see you, you are indeed extraordinary. I am afraid that no one in the Sword God Palace is your match. But what a pity. The Sword Emperor was originally proud. Was the ancestor praising him like this? He felt very happy. However, he soon frowned. Why is Senior pitiful? Are you mocking me? Fairy, you misunderstood. This old man is not mocking you. It's just a pity that the great dragon sword spirit is in your hands. Ah, great dragon sword soul. Hearing this, the Sword Emperor's pupils shrank. The great dragon sword, one of the 5 legendary swords. Its power is beyond imagination. However, this treasure is extremely mysterious. It is said that it has long been lost. I have naturally heard of the legend of the great dragon sword. However, this treasure has disappeared with the previous battle. It has never appeared again. You are wrong. Xianming shook his head slightly. Your jade, clear city is very mysterious. One city is one world. Nephew, you haven't gone out yet, right? I don't want to go out. I think it's better for you to go out and take a look. The world is very big, the universe is very vast, and there are many interesting people outside. I know one person. His name is Linwoody. He is a top expert of the younger generation and is now a young great emperor. A mere great emperor dares to call himself invincible. The Sword Emperor's eyes were filled with disdain. The people outside are really trash. Don't underestimate him. He is very powerful because he controls the great dragon sword soul. His sword technique is the sharpest and most terrifying sword technique I have ever seen. What? Linwoody has the great dragon sword soul? Is that true? When the Sword Emperor heard this, he almost jumped up. Xianming said, "You can recognize the power of the dragon's sword soul at a glance." Was it true? You'll know when you see it. The Sword Emperor is very excited. If it really is the great dragon sword spirit, then he must snatch it. What qualifications did a young great emperor have to obtain the great dragon sword soul? Only an invincible expert like him deserved it. However, he soon frowned. Senior, you are an Earth Immortal. You should also need the power of the great dragon sword soul, right? Why did you tell me? The great dragon sword was one of the 5 swords in the world, and there was no one who did not want to obtain it. The Sword Emperor was very smart. He quickly calmed down. Because I can't get it. I want to talk about Linwoody. He's from the domain of the gods. The enmity between the otherworld heavenly king and the celestial realm has been going on for countless years. When did we start fighting? He couldn't remember it clearly anymore. We are mortal enemies. If I make a move, the land immortals of the god realm will not sit idly by. So it's an enemy. Senior, do you think I'm a fool and want to kill someone with a borrowed knife? Xianming stopped smiling. He said, I really want to kill someone with a borrowed knife. Moreover, I've already talked to your divine sword ancestor. He agreed. Of course, the condition is that if you kill Linwoody, the great dragon sword will be yours. We won't snatch it. Now I'm here to ask you, do you want to make a move? Do you dare to fight a young great emperor? Why not? I'll go kill him now. The Sword Emperor was very excited. Even the divine sword ancestor agreed. Then he had nothing to worry about. He didn't have to worry about his danger. If an Earth Immortal dared to attack him, the divine sword ancestor would definitely not sit idly by. Once he obtained the great dragon sword soul, he would have no problem becoming an Earth Immortal. Moreover, This speed would be unimaginably fast. Lin Wudi was in an ancient city in the heavenly land. Xian Ming took out a map and gave it to the Sword Emperor. "Nephew, you should make some preparations." Xian Ming left. This was not a conspiracy at all, but an open one. He didn't hide anything. Should he jump into this pit? It all depended on the Sword Emperor. However, he guessed that the Sword Emperor would definitely go. Sure enough, the Sword Emperor took a deep breath and immediately set off. "Xiao Dai, come with me." The Sword Emperor also brought a sword servant, a little maid. However, she was definitely a top swordsman. After hearing this, Xiao Dai nodded and quickly followed. A peerless sword light appeared under their feet. They cut through the sky and left the Sword God Palace. After they left, a figure appeared in the depths of the Sword God Palace. It was an old man. He bowed slightly and asked the godlike figure in front of him, "Ancestor, is it okay to let him go?" Hagen obviously had bad intentions. The terrifying figure in front of him was the divine sword. He didn't have any sword energy on him. However, no one dared to be presumptuous in front of him. The divine sword still had his hands behind his back. He looked into the distance and said with a smile, "So what? It's just an open scheme." With the Sword Emperor's current strength, no one below the Earth Immortal level was his opponent. Great Dragon Sword Soul? I'm looking forward to it. Don't worry, I already have a backup plan. I'm not afraid of the Earth Immortal's sneak attack. Ancestor is wise. The divine sword was well prepared. In a critical moment, he would immediately move. Lin Xian still didn't know that an invincible Sword Emperor was quickly heading towards him. At this moment, Lin Xian and the others were preparing to go to Yuqing City. At this time, the Crimson Dragon came back and said angrily, damn it. What's wrong?" The toad jumped over and asked, "That Long Xiaotian has been thinking about the Dragon Clan. He wants to take the Dragon Clan back. He wants to be the Dragon Emperor. That guy is a super great emperor. I can't beat him. I'm so angry that I can only stay in the Dragon Valley. Damn it, that Dragon Emperor, is he coming back again?" The toad also frowned. After Lin Xian heard this, he also walked out and said, "He doesn't deserve the title of Dragon Emperor. Ruzalong, take the Dragon Clan powerhouse to the Heavenly Land. The Dragon Clan is ours. He can forget about it. As for this Long Xiaotian, I will personally deal with him." "Great, I'll take action now." The Crimson Dragon returned to the deity ground again. In the deity ground, Long Xiaotian's brows were tightly knitted. He naturally didn't care about a Crimson Dragon, but behind the Crimson Dragon was the Divine Realm. The other party couldn't beat him, so he called for help from the Divine Realm. He couldn't do anything at that time. Damn it, it's really too damn. Back in the day, he commanded the Dragon Clan, swept across the universe, and was invincible. He was the strongest person of his era. But now, the Divine Realm and the Nirvana Realm appeared one after another. The strongest people of countless eras gathered together. Long Xiaotian was somewhat powerless. Chapter 63-59. In the era when Long Xiaotian became an emperor, the Divine Realm and the Permethar Realm did not appear. Although there were people from the Divine Realm who came out to invite him, he rejected them. Since then, he hadn't been threatened or pressured by anything. The only pressure was the matter of cultivation. However, he had made a lot of arrangements. But now, it seemed that many of his arrangements were useless. Although he had become a super great emperor from a great emperor, he was already able to shock the world. However, the terror of the Permethar Realm and the Divine Realm far exceeded his imagination. It turned out that there was such a thing as an Earth Immortal. Brother Tian, don't be discouraged. Those Earth Immortals are old monsters who have lived for tens of millions of years. We have only lived for tens of thousands of years. In the future, we will definitely become Earth Immortals. Long Yu advised from the side. Long Xiaotian remained silent because he knew that it was too difficult to become an Earth Immortal. With the resources he currently had, It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Therefore, he made a decision. Let's join the Permethar realm. Longi was shocked. Brother Tian, didn't you say that you didn't want to be controlled by others? If we join the Permethar realm, we won't have freedom. That's not necessarily true. We don't really want to join. We just want to find a big tree to rely on. This time, the Permethar realm had suffered heavy losses in the battle with the Divine Realm. Countless powerhouses had died. It was said that even Earth immortals had fallen. Therefore, he only needed new strength now. They shouldn't reject our joining. After joining, we will only target Linwoody and think of a way to seize the dragon's sword soul from him. Once we get it, we will leave the Permethar realm. With the dragon's sword soul, I can definitely become an Earth immortal. All right, I'll listen to Brother Tian. Long Yu nodded. Next, Long Xiaotian and Long Yu no longer attacked the dragon race. Instead, they headed to the Eternal Land. At this moment, the Eternal Land was completely defended. He naturally couldn't enter. He was stopped at the edge of the Eternal Land. Long Xiaotian explained his purpose for coming. Soon he was let in. That's great. A smile appeared on Long Xiaotian's face. Permetha, I'm coming. In the heavens, at this moment, countless people had gathered. These people were all here because of the mysterious and terrifying shock from before. They wanted to investigate whether or not a shocking treasure had appeared. These people came from the various clans and sects in the universe. Even the Supreme Palace and the Yuhua Immortal Dynasty had sent people over. They began to search all over the world. At this moment, two figures flew over from afar. It was a man in purple robes and a purple jade crown on his head. He was tall, mighty, and extraordinarily handsome. Beside him was an incomparably beautiful woman. She wore a purple dress and held a sword in her hand. The appearance of these two people attracted the attention of the crowd. Who were these two people? It was so unfamiliar. They came from afar, so perhaps they knew some information. Immediately, someone rushed up and said, "Stop, who are you? Do you know what kind of treasure will appear here?" The one who spoke was a man whose body was covered in lightning. He was from the Thunder Clan. Up ahead, the Sword Emperor frowned. "Foolish outsiders. Xiao Dai, go and take care of it." When the purple-clothed woman beside him heard this, she walked out. A hint of coldness appeared in her eyes. "Those who block my path will die." At this moment, an extremely terrifying sword intent burst out from her body. Suddenly, the entire void shook violently. Everyone felt a chill run down their spines. This aura was too frightening. They were all stunned. This woman was incomparably beautiful, but the aura on her body was extremely terrifying. The Thunder Clan's powerhouse's expression changed. "Little girl, with just you? You want to threaten me? Stupid. Kill." The purple-clothed woman shouted coldly. The long sword in her hand flew out and was caught by her jade-like hand. She slashed out with the sword. Puff! Ah! Everyone only saw a flash of sword light. Then a scream was heard. The Thunder Clan's powerhouse was cut in half and his body fell from the sky. What a fast sword! Everyone was frightened and their scalps went numb. They retreated one after another. They knew how terrifying this Thunder Clan's powerhouse was. He had a destructive aura, but now he was killed by a sword. This mysterious woman was too terrifying. She had a peerless sword technique. "Sorry to disturb you. Forgive us, we were wrong." A voice was heard. Then these people fled one after another. In an instant, the place became extremely quiet. The purple-clothed girl, Xiao Dai, walked back to the Sword Emperor. The Sword Emperor snorted coldly. "Outsiders are indeed ants. They are so weak and pitiful." He tapped his foot, and the sword chi under his feet flashed again. It turned into a flash of light and disappeared. He only had one purpose for this trip, and that was the great dragon sword soul. In the distance, the people of the Supreme Hall and the Yuhua Immortal Dynasty were also shocked. What a terrifying sword technique! I've never seen it before. Could it be that these two people are from Jade Pure City? Where are they going? They followed them to take a look. The people of the two forces followed secretly. Xiao Dai said, "Young master, there are ants following us. Should we kill them?" The Sword Emperor snorted coldly. "Ignore them. Go to the city of 10,000 blades and kill that Lin Xian for me. I'll go somewhere else to take a look. Since I'm here, I'll see what's different about this universe." The Sword Emperor was very arrogant. In addition, he had seen these outsiders before. He felt that Lin Xian was just SO. Perhaps he couldn't even defeat Xiao Dai. He couldn't be bothered to pay attention to him. "Yes," Xiao Dai replied respectfully. Then, she went to the city of 10,000 blades. She flew as fast as lightning and finally arrived at the city of 10,000 blades. However, at this moment she frowned. To be honest, she was really shocked, because at this moment there was endless sword energy surrounding the ancient city. Tens of thousands of swords were flying and accumulating power. What a terrifying sword energy! Xiao Dai was surprised. To be honest, along the way, some people coveted her beauty and wanted to strike up a conversation with her, but she killed them with one sword strike. Some people also wanted to snatch the sword in her hand, but they couldn't even block one sword strike. Along the way, her evaluation of these outsiders was that they were weak. They were too weak. No one could block her sword. Therefore, she looked down on them. However, when she arrived at this ancient city, she was shocked. The sword energy here made her hair stand on end. Apart from the sword god's palace, he had never seen any other place with such piercingly cold sword chi. Where is this? Isn't this the city of 10,000 blades? Thinking of this, she shouted coldly, "This is the city of 10,000 blades." On the city wall, several powerhouses appeared. They said coldly, "The city of 10,000 blades is a thing of the past. This city is now called the city of 10,000 blades. Who are you? Why are you here?" The city changed its name. As for the reason, Xiao Dai didn't want to know. She was too lazy to care. She said loudly, "Then let me ask you, is Lin Xian in this ancient city?" "You are looking for Lin Gongzi. Of course he is here. He is the guardian of the city of 10,000 blades. Is he here?" Xiao Dai smiled. "Well, let him come out. Why are you looking for him?" "Kill him." The powerhouses on the city wall were stunned. To be honest, they thought this was Lin Xian's friend. After all, Lin Xian's footprints were all over the world. Maybe he was a friend of other worlds. However, when the words "kill him" came out, the faces of the people on the city wall immediately darkened. "Are you an enemy? Are you from the other side? Or are you from the Hall of Self-Esteem?" No. A touch of arrogance appeared in Xiao Dai's eyes. "I am from the Sword God Palace. Let him come out. He doesn't deserve to have the great dragon sword soul. Only the Sword God Palace can have it." Sword God Palace? Never heard of it. However, this little girl was too arrogant. On the city wall, two people attacked. They never showed mercy to their enemies. Chapter 6360. The two attacked aggressively, their terrifying big palms blotting out the sky and covering the earth. However, Little Butterfly just smiled contemptuously. With a flash of sword light, their arms were shattered. She was so powerful. The two guards were stunned. They wanted to retreat. However, Little Butterfly snorted coldly, "Go to hell!" Another sword strike. The two guards were desperate. This little girl is so strong. She is a peerless swordsman. At this critical moment, the sword energy above the city of 10,000 swords suddenly erupted, saving the two guards' lives. The two guards retreated, their arms split open, and they vomited blood. Little Butterfly was surprised. "It can block my sword technique. The sword energy above the ancient city is really extraordinary." Could it be that this was the sword energy condensed by the dragon's sword soul? Little Butterfly was more and more sure. The dragon sword soul was indeed an offensive saint technique. However, in the hands of the opponent, it could only exert this much strength? What a waste! Lin Xian, come out and die. Little Butterfly shouted angrily, and her voice instantly spread. Countless people in the city looked up. Who is it? How dare he attack Lin Gongzi so rudely? Do he want to die? In their hearts, Lin Xian was a godlike existence. The toad jumped up and said, "Who is so arrogant? I'll go and meet him." Soon he went out and saw a little girl. He said, "I'll drown you with my spit." The toad underestimated the enemy. Although Little Butterfly was a maid, she was not an ordinary maid. She had been cultivating in the Sword God Palace since she was young, and being able to follow the Sword Emperor was enough to show how terrifying her talent was. If it weren't for her humble background, she would definitely be a top genius now. Therefore, the toad was sent flying by the sword, and there was a bloody wound on his body. "Ouch, it hurts. Just you wait." The toad fled back. "Boy, God damn it, there is a sword genius, and it's a little girl. Go and take a look." After the toad came back, he rushed to Lin Xian's side and said, "Look, I was seriously injured by her. It hurts. Give me some heavenly spring of life." After saying that, he looked eagerly at Lin Xian. Lin Xian glanced at him and said, "The heavenly spring of life is so precious. You don't need it at all." He took out a stock of ancient medicine from his storage ring and tossed it to her, saying, "Take this to heal your wounds." The toad was also beaming with joy. "Haha, my injury is actually not a problem anymore. However, that little girl is too despicable. She threatened to kill you. What was going on?" Lin Xian frowned and asked, "Do the people of Permitha have no idea of life and death?" At this moment, the guards in front also arrived. They said, "Lin Gongzi, this woman claims to be from the Sword God's palace and wants to steal your dragon sword soul." Sword God Palace? Never heard of it. Let's go and take a look. There were quite a few people who had designs on his great dragon sword soul. However, he had never seen anyone so brazenly do it for the first time. He wanted to see what kind of divine being this was. Let her in. There were so many people in ancient city. Why would they be afraid of a little girl like her? Let her in. Soon the ancient city opened and little Dai walked in. She was still not afraid. This surprised everyone. A little girl actually had such great courage. When she entered the city, countless eyes looked at little Dai. Some people exclaimed, "What a beautiful woman!" Others said, "The sword intent on this little girl is so cold." The emperor weapon in her hand was also extremely extraordinary. Little Dai looked around and said, "Which one is Lin Xian?" "I am." Lin Xian stood up and said loudly, "I am Lin Xian." Little Dai stared at Lin Xian, and a cold sword intent appeared in her eyes, as if it was going to pierce the sky. The void around Lin Xian shook violently. Beside Lin Xian, the people from the God realm were also surprised. They thought it was a little girl who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. However, they didn't expect her sword intent to be so cold. Lin Xian didn't care at all. He waved his sleeve and directly dissolved the sharp aura. He said, "You said you came from the Sword God's palace. Why have I never heard of it?" "Stupid outsider! How could you have heard of it? Our Sword God's palace is a supreme sect in Jade Clear City." Jade Clear City? Lin Xian was stunned when he heard this. The others also exclaimed. They had learned from the Wine Sword Immortal that a mysterious ancient city had appeared in the heavenly land. One city, one world. There were many ancient existences in it. They had planned to go in and explore. However, they didn't expect that the people in Jade Clear City would come out before they did. And it seemed to be a top sect in Jade Clear City. "How do you know that I have the great dragon sword soul? Do you have a fragment of the great dragon sword?" Lin Xian was very surprised. According to Lord Wine, Jade Clear City hadn't appeared for thousands of years. How could she know? How did we know? You don't need to know. You just need to hand over the great dragon sword soul, and I will spare your life. Ha! As soon as she said this, the people from the deity realm all laughed. Little girl, you're too ignorant. Lin Gongzi's strength is not something you can imagine. Although you are strong, you're nothing in front of Lin Gongzi. Little girl, leave. You are no match for the young master. Voices rang out. They knew Lin Xian's strength very well. He was someone who could defeat a super great emperor, now that he had broken through. His strength was even more unfathomable. They had never seen Lin Xian fight after breaking through. Stupid! I will show you my strength. Xiao Dai attacked. Sword light flashed as she unsheathed her long sword. This sword cut through the 9 heavens and illuminated the world. Countless people put away their smiles because that sword was simply too terrifying. What sword technique was this? Why was it so sharp? At this moment, even the great emperors felt their hair stand on end. Was she a peerless genius from the sword god's palace? Even Yi Wu Dao, Gu Santong, and the others wore solemn expressions. This woman was definitely a genius swordsman. In the blink of an eye, the long sword was in front of Lin Xian. In the face of such a terrifying sword, Lin Xian merely smiled. With a flick of his finger, a beam of sword qi flew out. Like a sword dragon, it appeared between heaven and earth. With a boom, the sword was slapped away by the sword dragon. Then the sword dragon flew forward and enveloped Xiao Dai in an instant. Xiao Dai's face changed. She did not expect Lin Xian's strength to be so terrifying. She roared and raised her sword to block. The sword dragon collided with the long sword. With a clang, Xiao Dai was sent flying. Half of her body was numb, and she could not exert any strength. She could not even hold the long sword. With a clang, it fell to the ground. How could this be? Xiao Dai was stunned. Did she lose? She was defeated by a single finger. The toad Yi Wu Dao and the others were also surprised. Lin Xian's strength was much stronger than before. The toad jumped out and said coldly, "Little girl, did you see that? This is Lin Wudi's strength. Can the sword god's palace compare? You are the most powerful genius in the sword god's palace. But so what? You can't even block a single finger from Lin Wudi. You want the great dragon sword spirit? Dream on." The others were also discussing. They said, "The sword god's palace is just as a... What's so powerful about Jade Pure City? I thought it was terrifying." Yi Wu Dao also shook his head. "If this is the strength of the sword god's palace, then it is far inferior to the immortal city." "Stupid, what do you know? Who told you that I am the most powerful genius in the sword god's palace? I am just a little maid. This time, I came with the Sword Emperor Prince. The Sword Emperor Prince looked down on you, so he only sent me a little maid." Chapter 63-61. You're just a sword attendant. Everyone was stunned. They couldn't believe it. They thought the other party was a top genius. But now, the other party was just a little maid. A sword attendant of the Sword God Palace was so terrifying. What kind of joke was this? Especially the toad, he couldn't accept it. If he was defeated by a top genius, he could accept it. But now he was defeated by a little maid. He really couldn't stand it. He didn't believe it. Little Butterfly stood up, gritted her teeth, and said, "Lin Xian, I admit that I underestimated you. You're very strong, much stronger than I thought. But I think you rely on the great dragon sword soul. Otherwise, you can't beat me at all. But even if you have the great dragon sword soul, so what? You're no match for the Sword Emperor. This time, I came with the Sword Emperor. I lost, but the Sword Emperor hasn't lost yet. He will kill you in 3 moves. Little Butterfly said the Sword Emperor left and right, saying that the other party was invincible in the world. This made the people of the God realm extremely angry. Then what was the Sword Emperor? Could he be compared with our Lin Gongzi? That's right, Lin Gongzi was invincible and had never been defeated. So what if the Sword Emperor was strong? Let him come. Lin Gongzi will kill him with one move. He didn't deserve to be invincible. The Sword Emperor deserved to be invincible. The Sword Emperor was the real invincible swordsman under the God Realm. Little Butterfly's words were so sharp that the people of the God Realm trembled with anger. They had never seen such an arrogant person. Who was the Sword Emperor? Let him come. Lin Xian also narrowed his eyes. A little maid? The strongest swordsman under the Sword God Realm. The Sword Emperor, interesting. I want to see how strong this peerless swordsman from Jade Pure City is. With that, he waved his hand and opened a passage in the void. He said, Go back and tell your Sword Emperor that I accept his challenge. Humph, it's not a challenge. He's just passing by, and then he'll kill you and take the great dragon sword. Just wait, the Sword Emperor will come soon. At that time, it will be your doomsday. With that, Little Butterfly picked up the Emperor weapon on the ground and disappeared in a flash. Kid, he let her go just like that? Damn it. I want to pull out her tendons and skin her alive. The toad gritted its teeth. Lin Xian said, Don't worry, she'll come again. What I was more curious about was, how did they know? I have the great dragon's sword soul. Could it be that someone had already entered Clear Jade City during this period of time? Or did they already know about the great dragon sword? Lin Xian felt that the sword god's palace might have something to do with the great dragon sword. The purpose of his trip was to find the great dragon sword fragment. Therefore, this clue must not be missed. On the other side, the Sword Emperor went to many places. This celestial land was originally one of the 9 heavens and 10 earths, incomparably mysterious. For example, Shangqing City was also a mysterious existence. Therefore, not long after the Sword Emperor came out, he felt the mysteriousness of Shangqing City. He felt that it was not any weaker than Jade, Clear City. Let's go and take a look. He rushed over. However, he was stopped. Shangqing City was guarded by an Earth Immortal. The Sword Emperor could not break in, so he could only leave regretfully. At the same time, he was surprised. He didn't expect that there would be so many Land Immortals in the outside world. But so what? Wait, after I obtain the great dragon sword soul, I will become an Earth Immortal. Then I will kill my way in. The Sword Emperor glanced at Shangqing City, then turned around and left. After that, he went to some other places. Not bad, not bad. The outside world was indeed strange. It could indeed give people new insights. However, why hadn't Xiao Dai returned after such a long time? Could it be that Lin Wuti had some strength? Just as he was thinking, a sword light came from afar. Then it turned into a woman in purple. Xiao Dai knelt on one knee on the ground. Her face was pale as she said, Sword Emperor, please forgive me. I lost. Who did she lose to? Was it the Earth Immortal behind Lin Wuti? He now understood some of the situation. The Divine Realm was an extremely huge force. There was more than one Earth Immortal inside. No, I went to the city of 10,000 blades, which has been renamed the City of 10,000 Swords. Inside, I saw Lin Wuti and attacked him. In the end, I was defeated by him with one finger. Xiao Dai did not dare to hide anything. She told him everything that had happened. The Sword Emperor was surprised. Defeated with one finger, this was indeed beyond his expectations. Although Xiao Dai was his sword attendant, Xiao Dai was at the great emperor level. Her sword skills were extremely terrifying even among the great emperors. However, she was easily defeated. Was it the power of the great dragon sword spirit? The Sword Emperor's eyes flickered. Xiao Dai said it should be because his sword energy turned into a sword dragon. It was extremely sharp. So that's how it is. It's not shameful that you lost to the great dragon sword spirit. This time I will suppress him with my own hands. Yes. Xiao Dai stood up, extremely excited. This time, the Sword Emperor's speed was very fast. He directly charged towards the city of 10,000 swords. In the city of 10,000 swords, everyone was waiting. They all wanted to see how arrogant the Sword Emperor was. At this time, countless sword energy around the city of 10,000 swords shook violently. Sword light shot into the sky. Then the air around the city of 10,000 swords became oppressive, as if black clouds were pressing down on the city. Everyone in the city felt a sense of fear. What's going on? Why do I feel so uneasy? I kept feeling that something was about to happen. It was like the suppression before a great battle. Yi Wudao, Morong Qingqing, and the others also frowned. Morong Qingqing said, "Brother Xian, be careful." Lin Xian said, "I feel a sword Dao competition. A peerless swordsman is coming. It should be the Sword Emperor of the Sword God's palace." This was the aura of the Sword Emperor. He hadn't even arrived yet, but the other party's sword energy could already affect them? What kind of method was this? A peerless enemy. Only then did everyone believe that Xiao Dai wasn't lying. This Sword Emperor was really a peerless swordsman that had never appeared before. Finally, everyone saw a ray of light appear on the distant horizon. It was very fast. In the blink of an eye, it was near the ancient city. In the next moment, the sword light disappeared and turned into two figures. One was a handsome man wearing purple clothes and a jade crown. Beside him was a beautiful woman in purple. This woman was none other than Xiao Dai. At this moment, the other party's face was still a little pale. There was no need to think about it. This man in purple must be the Sword Emperor. When the Sword Emperor saw the city of 10,000 swords, he was also shocked. What a sharp sword energy! I didn't expect that there would be such a place besides my sword god's palace. This should be the power of the great dragon sword spirit. It's really sharp. No wonder it's one of the 5 swords of the world. I must have this good thing. Xiao Dai walked out and said coldly, "The Sword Emperor is here." Lin Xian come out and die. What was he so arrogant for? Toad and the others from the god's realm gritted their teeth. Lin Xian waved his hand and opened the city of 10,000 swords. "Let's go and meet him." A group of people rose into the air and flew out of the city. Soon they arrived outside. The Sword Emperor instantly stared at Lin Xian, because he could feel that there was a super sharp power in Lin Xian's body. Chapter 63-62. The Dragon Sword Soul is in your hands. The Sword Emperor stared at Lin Xian and said coldly, "I'll give you a chance. Hand it over because you're not my opponent." The Sword Emperor's attitude was even more arrogant than Xiao Dai's. Moreover, he had an invincible aura around him. That sword energy seemed to be able to tear apart heaven and earth. Yi Wudao and the others looked solemn. What a powerful enemy! They admitted that they were no match for him. What were the chances of Lin Xian succeeding? Lin Xian smiled. "You want me to hand over the Dragon Sword Soul with just a few words? You're too naive. I heard that you're from Jade, Clear City. Originally, I wanted to go there to investigate, but I didn't expect you to take the initiative to come here. Since that's the case, I'll see how strong a genius from Jade, Clear City like you is." "Just you?" The Sword Emperor's eyes were filled with disdain. In the next moment, his gaze turned into a peerless divine sword and slashed out. What a biting cold power! Yi Wudao, Gu Santong, and the Crimson Dragon were all pushed back by this power. Lin Xian, on the other hand, stood in front of Yi Futian. He laughed coldly as terrifying sword will burst from his eyes. Then the two collided. Clang! An earth-shaking sound came, and the sword energy turned into waves, sweeping out in all directions. The surrounding void shattered, and everyone retreated. Xiao Dai also retreated far away. She looked shocked. How terrifying! He actually blocked the Sword Emperor's attack. The Sword Emperor was also stunned. "You have some strength, but it's not enough." Just as he finished speaking, his expression changed because he found that Lin Xian had already arrived beside him. Then he pointed out a finger. His finger turned into a golden dragon, surrounded by piercingly cold sword qi. This was the Sword Dao Golden Dragon. Boom! The Sword Emperor was forced to take a few steps back amidst the sword lights that filled the sky. His face turned pale, and cracks appeared on the sword veil, covering his body. Great, he had the upper hand. The people from the God realm in the distance saw this scene and laughed. As for Xiao Dai, she looked as if she had seen a ghost. The Sword Emperor was at a disadvantage? Was he going to be suppressed right from the start? That's impossible. The Sword Emperor must have been careless. Damned brat, you've completely infuriated me. The Sword Emperor roared as his black hair danced in the wind. The next moment he roared. Boundless sword qi flew out from his body and flooded the entire area. Lin Xian was also enveloped by this sword light. Go to hell! The Sword Emperor's expression was ferocious. The sea of sword qi swallowed everything. However, there was a sword light that was even more resplendent and directly split the sword qi ocean apart. Lin Xian walked out of the crack, completely unharmed. You won't be able to defeat me with just this sword qi. Draw your sword and display your peerless divine ability. Lin Xian's appearance surprised Xiao Dai once again. How powerful was Lin Xian to be completely unscathed? For the first time, Xiao Dai doubted life. The Sword Emperor's face also darkened. Let's see if you have the qualifications to make me draw my sword. Not just anyone can make me draw my sword. The Sword Emperor took a step forward, and the sword aura on his body split the void again. Xiao Dai smiled. This was the sword aura. The Sword Emperor's sword aura could suppress his peers. Even the super great emperors were no match for him. Not to mention you. Sure enough, as soon as this sword aura appeared, the faces of the people from the divine realm turned extremely ugly. This Sword Emperor was too strong. No wonder he was so arrogant. Lin Xian laughed out loud. What can a mere sword aura do to me? If you don't draw your sword, you will regret it. Since the other party didn't draw his sword, Lin Xian naturally wouldn't draw his sword either. He formed a seal with his palms, and the power of the immortals condensed in his palm. He slapped out with his palm, and it seemed to have turned into a mountain sweeping out. The seal of mountains and rivers. It caused the entire sky to shake. The power of the immortals on it kept erupting, attacking the sword aura. The monstrous sword aura collapsed under this power of the immortals. Boom! The seal of mountains and rivers tore through everything and charged towards the Sword Emperor. The Sword Emperor's face changed and he dodged. Only then did he dodge the attack. Then he furrowed his brows tightly. What was that power just now? It wasn't divine fire, nor was it immortal qi. This person was so strange. Lin Xian snorted coldly. If you don't draw your sword, then I will beat you until you do. After saying that, he attacked again, exerting the power of the immortals to the extreme. Great solar indestructible palm. Between heaven and earth, a fiery red color appeared. The terrifying fire of the sun appeared, as if it could burn for 9 days. This palm, the scorching aura, made the bodies of these great emperors feel like they were melting. Xiao Dai also roared angrily, and sword light covered her body to resist. One could imagine how much danger the Sword Emperor, who bore the brunt of the attack, was in. The Sword Emperor was indeed stunned. This person's strength was beyond his imagination. Previously, it was difficult for him to meet his match in a battle of the same level. He could defeat a super great emperor without drawing his sword. Once he drew his sword, no one in the world was his match. In his opinion, he was invincible below the earth immortal. But now, the young man in front of him gave him a crisis. Well, I admit that you are qualified to make me draw my sword. But if I draw my sword, you will definitely die. The Sword Emperor shouted coldly. Beside him, the void cracked and a simple long sword appeared. This sword was different from the usual long sword. This sword was too wide. It was several times wider than a normal sword, and it was incomparably heavy. The body of the sword was white, and there were blue lines on it. They intertwined with each other, forming a mysterious pattern. This sword is called White Moon. It has been with me for tens of thousands of years. You should be proud to die under this sword. The Sword Emperor's voice rang out, and then a white air ring slashed down from the sky. This sword caused the flames of the sun between heaven and earth to be quickly extinguished. A crack appeared in the endless sea of fire. The great solar indestructible palm was actually sent flying. Countless cracks appeared on the palm of his hand. Heavens, he actually blocked the great solar indestructible palm. The Sword Emperor's sword technique was actually so powerful. Lin Xian withdrew his palm and didn't attack again. His eyes burst out with a piercing cold light. He said, "Your sword is a divine weapon." "That's right, boy, are you afraid?" The Sword Emperor snorted coldly. "But it's too late to be afraid now. I gave you a chance to beg for mercy, but you didn't cherish it." Behind him, Yi Wu Dao, the Crimson Dragon, and the others also exclaimed. It turned out to be a divine weapon. No wonder it was so powerful. This was really a difficult opponent. Lin Xian smiled. "A divine weapon? In this way, I can also use my immortal slaying sword. At first, I thought that using a divine weapon was bullying you, but now I don't have such concerns." Lin Xian waved his hand, and the immortal slaying sword appeared in front of him. He held the sword in his right hand, and boundless killing intent suddenly swept through the 9 heavens. A divine weapon! In the distance, Xiao Dai exclaimed, "I didn't expect that Lin Xian would also have a divine weapon." The Sword Emperor was also surprised, as expected of the owner of the great dragon sword soul. "Humph! So what if you have a divine weapon in your hand? You are still no match for me. I'll let you see my peerless sword technique." The Sword Emperor tore the void and charged forward. Chapter 63. The Sword Emperor attacked with all his might. Moonlight slash. On the white moon sword energy danced and cut through the sky. It turned into streaks of mysterious moonlight that slashed over. At this moment, no one could stop it. 9 Yang's sword technique. Lin Xian, on the other hand, unleashed an incomparably vast power of the purest Yang. His sword seemed to have turned into the sun. Like the divine beast Golden Crow, it kept falling. This was a battle between the sun and the moon. Every strike shattered heaven and earth. Any super great emperor would beg for mercy immediately after seeing this, because no one could defeat him. Lin Xian slashed out 9 times in a row, but they were all blocked by his opponent. This surprised Lin Xian. This person was indeed strong. He shouted, "9 suns combine." The 9 sword lights all merged together, and one flew out, like the resurrection of the sun god. On the other side, the Sword Emperor laughed loudly. "I am the Emperor of the Sword Tao, whether it is sword technique or sword intent. I have completely surpassed you. You are not worthy of being my enemy, and you are not worthy of having the great dragon sword soul. So you can die now." The Sword Emperor roared. White moonlight. The white moon divine sword in his hand suddenly burst out with a terrifying light. At this moment, it was as if a moon had descended. The pressure made everyone feel terrified. What is this? What a terrifying phenomenon! The Crimson Dragon and the others exclaimed. Even Murong Qingqing became nervous. On the other side, Xiao Dai cheered. "That's great. It's a peerless divine ability. The Sword Emperor is using a peerless divine ability." The battle was over. The sword in the Sword Emperor's hand turned into a moon. Endless moonlight flew out, and each beam could pierce through a super great emperor. All Lin Xian's paths were blocked by the white moonlight. He couldn't retreat at all and could only resist it. But could he resist it? The Sword Emperor's voice sounded. Even if you have a divine artifact, you can't resist it. Lin Xian smiled. A peerless divine ability? Interesting. It seems that I have to use some of my unique skills. Heaven-defying sword technique. Lin Xian's sword technique changed. Previously, the Nine-Yang sword technique was extremely masculine and majestic. Every move and stance was wide open. However, at this moment, the swordsmanship had become extremely cold. The sword Qi carried an unyielding will. Heaven-defying sword art. The heavens can't stop me. The earth can't stop me. No one in this world can be my enemy. At this moment, Lin Xian seemed to have transformed into a sword god. High and mighty, looking down on the common people. A sword slashed out, confronting the moonlight in the sky. Boom! It was a devastating blow. Lin Xian's figure was enveloped by the moonlight sword Qi. However, in the next moment he appeared in the moonlight that filled the sky. This was because the moonlight sword Qi could not reach him at all. The sword intent on his body was too powerful. It was like a hot knife through butter. In an instant, Lin Xian arrived in front of the Sword Emperor. You are the Sword Emperor, and I am the Sword God. Boom! The heaven-defying sword slashed down. The moon phantom began to shake violently, and a deafening sound rang out, causing the entire world to tremble. If this was not the high heavens, the world would have been shattered long ago. Crack! A crack appeared on the moon, and then the light on it quickly dimmed. Damn it, how could this be? The Sword Emperor was stupefied. Had his peerless divine ability been broken? In a hurry, he raised his sword to block. With a clang, he was forced back and spat out a mouthful of blood. Cracks appeared on the hand holding the sword, and even the bones were exposed. From this, one could imagine how terrifying that attack was. The Sword Emperor! Xiao Dai exclaimed, the Sword Emperor is injured? This is something that has never happened before. The Sword Emperor is being suppressed, and the opponent is only a great emperor. Is this all you have? I haven't even used my full strength, and you can't do it? Again. Lin Xian roared angrily, and the heaven-defying sword technique attacked again. It was rare for him to find an opponent. He had not enjoyed this battle to the fullest. The long sword swept out like a dragon crossing the river. In the next moment, many dragon shadows appeared on the sword Qi. One sword turned into 10,000 dragons. One dragon after another stood indomitable, as if God's hand had been resurrected. They filled the sky. They roared at the sky, and their bodies carried an indestructible power. The powerful murderous aura made Xiao Dai almost kneel on the ground in fright. What kind of power was this? She was still unconvinced when she lost to Lin Xian, but now it seemed that she was too stupid and naive. Lin Xian didn't want to kill her at all. Otherwise, he could have killed her in one strike. Between heaven and earth, there was infinite killing intent. Lin Xian waved his hand, and 10,000 sword dragons rushed down. They all attacked the Sword Emperor. Damn it! How dare you underestimate me? The Sword Emperor's face was ferocious. In the face of these terrifying attacks, he didn't escape at all. Instead, he stood in the void. In the next moment, his broken arm quickly recovered. Then he shouted in a low voice, "White Moon Divine Dance!" His figure suddenly jumped up and stood in the sky. Then his long sword danced continuously and slashed out 13 times in a row. Each sword was peerless. The 13 swords were connected and overlapped with each other. It was as if the gods were dancing. The dragons in front were hit and quickly collapsed. They actually tore open a space. Not a single dragon could reach the Sword Emperor. He was so powerful he actually blocked it. Gu Santong and the others were shocked beyond words. One had to know that the dragon shadow that Lin Xian transformed into was so terrifying. But now, someone could actually block it. It was unbelievable. Lin Xian smiled. That's right, show me your true ability. His cultivation technique was broken, but he didn't care. In the next moment, he held the immortal slaying sword and charged over to fight the Sword Emperor in close combat. The Sword Emperor swept his sword and used the white moon divine dance again. This time, there were no dragons to block him. He wanted to kill Lin Xian directly. Lin Xian became one with his sword, and like a dragon in the sky, he cut through the 9 heavens. The 2 divine weapons collided in the air, and then they shook violently. Lin Xian roared angrily, and the sword qi on his body became even more dazzling, directly knocking the white moon divine sword away. Then, the sword pierced through the Sword Emperor's body. All of this happened in an instant. To be honest, no one saw it clearly. Whether it was little butterfly Yi Wu Dao, Gu Santong, or the others, they couldn't see it clearly. They could only hear a loud bang, and then the sky fell and the earth cracked. That was because the speed of the 2 people was too fast, exceeding their perception. What happened? They hurriedly looked carefully. They saw that the 2 of them were already fighting with their backs facing each other. On Lin Xian's immortal slaying sword, the Emperor's blood was dripping nonstop. But behind him, the Sword Emperor's body was trembling. His internal organs were all shattered, and a huge bloody hole appeared in his body. He won. Murong Qingqing and the others cheered. Little Butterfly, on the other hand, couldn't believe it. Her vision turned black and she almost fainted. Did the Sword Emperor lose? That was the Sword Emperor, the invincible existence of the younger generation of the Sword God's palace. He was the peerless swordsman who swept across the world. But now he was defeated in his first battle outside the pristine Jade City. And he was defeated by a young great emperor. The Sword Emperor also roared to the sky, his eyes filled with unwillingness. He felt that his broken body couldn't heal. The invincible power above was too terrifying. This was the power of the great dragon's sword soul. He said, "I don't accept this. You have the great dragon's sword soul. Otherwise, I would kill you with one strike." Lin Xian snorted coldly, turned around, and looked at his opponent. He said, "You don't accept this? Fine. Then I'll beat you until you accept it." After that, he waved his hand, and the great dragon's sword soul in his body flew out. It swung its dragon tail in the air, and then flew into the city of 10,000 swords. "I won't use the great dragon's sword soul. You are still no match for me." Chapter 63-64. Lin Xian's actions surprised everyone. Murong Qingqing and the others exclaimed, "Brother Xian, you actually let the dragon sword soul leave your body!" The Crimson Dragon also said, "What is this kid thinking? He could just use his unstoppable power to kill the other party, and it would be over." On the other side, Xiao Dai was also surprised. In her opinion, Lin Xian's cultivation was so much lower than the Sword Emperor's. To be able to win, he definitely relied on the dragon sword soul. But now, the other party had actually given up on the great dragon sword soul. Wasn't this courting death? The Sword Emperor also laughed. "Ignorant, do you really think you can beat me without the dragon sword soul? Soon you will be desperate." He wanted to make a move. Lin Xian said, "Don't worry, you are seriously injured and can't use your full strength. I will give you a chance to recover." The Sword Emperor couldn't believe his ears. How confident was the other party to let him recover? Lin Xian stood there with his hands behind his back, his expression incomparably calm. "What's the point of defeating an injured you? Is 3 days enough? So arrogant, you underestimate me too much. 1 day is enough." The Sword Emperor directly sat down cross-legged. He took out the most precious, heavenly treasure from his storage ring and swallowed it. To be honest, swallowing this thing made his heart bleed because he didn't want to waste it unless it was a matter of life and death. However, in order to defeat this kid in front of him, he couldn't care less. Sure enough, after swallowing it, his broken wounds were actually healing. It seemed that it would take less than a day to recover. Night fell, and the stars shone brightly. A strange scene appeared in the heavens. However, no one was in the mood to admire the night sky. They were all nervous. The Sword Emperor stood up. The Sword Emperor's injuries had already healed. "Kid, you will regret this. I will let you know that without the Dragon Sword Soul, you are just a piece of trash. I can kill you with one move." The current Lin Xian was just an ordinary great emperor, even if he had a divine weapon. So what? He couldn't withstand a single blow. In the Sword Emperor's opinion, he didn't even need to use the White Moon God Dance. An ordinary moonlight slash could instantly kill his opponent. Sure enough, he had used the moonlight slash. The overlapping moonlight, combined with the magical night sky, was much more powerful than during the day. Although it was just a normal attack, it wasn't something a super great emperor could block. Stupid. Lin Xian shook his head and snorted coldly. In the next moment, his figure flashed, and his speed was extremely fast. Heaven-defying sword technique. It was still the same unyielding will. The sword in Lin Xian's hand destroyed everything. The moonlight that filled the sky was completely shattered. Then, with a flash of sword light, an arm flew up. Ah! The Sword Emperor let out a blood-curdling scream. Everyone was stunned once again. Lin Xian had cut off one of the Sword Emperor's arms with a single strike. Why was this battle record even more terrifying than before? Lin Xian said coldly, "Underestimating the enemy was a taboo for martial artists." He did not attack again. The Sword Emperor was furious. "Are you lecturing me?" Although he was furious, he was also extremely shocked. Just now, what was up with this kid's sword? Why didn't he feel much weaker? His opponent's swordsmanship was still as cold as ever. That's not right. There was no longer the power of the dragon's sword soul in his body. How could he still use such a cold swordsmanship? The Sword Emperor's arm flew back and merged with his body. He said coldly, "Kid, what's wrong with you?" Lin Xian snorted coldly. "My swordsmanship is called the heaven-defying swordsmanship. This swordsmanship has nothing to do with the dragon's sword soul. What the dragon's sword soul can provide is invincible power. The true essence of the heaven-defying swordsmanship is an unyielding will. The heavens can't stop me. The earth can't stop me. No one in the world can stop me. This is the heaven-defying swordsmanship." Hearing this, the Sword Emperor's pupils constricted. How arrogant! What had this guy experienced? At this moment, he put away his contempt, because he found that the young man in front of him was really too unusual. He had never seen him like this before. "Next, I will use all my strength to defeat you. Come on." The Sword Emperor shouted angrily and directly used the White Moon Divine Dance. Everyone became nervous again. This was the opponent's peerless magical power. Previously, Lin Xian had the Dragon Sword Soul and could slash it. Now, if the opponent didn't use the power of the Dragon Sword Soul, could he resist it? They didn't know. Lin Xian's expression was incomparably calm. Looking at this peerless magical power, he attacked again, heaven-defying 3 consecutive slashes. Sky slash, sky collapse, earth slash, earth crack. Lin Xian's sword was extremely fast and terrifying. Between heaven and earth, a huge sword light flashed. Then the sky broke open and the earth cracked open. This destructive power directly swallowed the opponent's 13 sword lights. At this time, Lin Xian had already arrived in front of the Sword Emperor. Slash! The third slash. The Sword Emperor didn't have time to defend, and his body was cut in half. Blood stained the sky. The 2 halves of the body fell from the sky. Miserable shrieks rang out, like the wails of ghosts and the howls of wolves. Was it thrown away? Murong Qingqing, Yi Wu Dao, and the others were all stunned. What a terrifying swordsmanship! They had never seen the heaven-defying triple slash before. Was this a newly created swordsmanship? In fact, Lin Xian had thought about this swordsmanship for a long time because he was prepared for the worst. He had thought about how he would deal with it if he didn't have the power of the dragon's sword one day. Therefore, he prepared this heavenly triple slash. Now that he used it, its power was extremely powerful. The Sword Emperor. Xiao Dai was scared to tears. The Sword Emperor had lost again. This time there was no excuse. If it was because of the dragon's sword soul before. But this time why? The Sword Emperor was stronger than the opponent in terms of cultivation. Both of them had divine artifacts. The Sword Emperor had lost. It could only be said that his skill was inferior. You've lost. Do you want to continue? Lin Xian looked forward and said. Previously, the two of them were just exchanging pointers. If they continued, it might be a life-and-death battle. The Sword Emperor didn't hear anything because he was really stunned. His confidence was shattered. All along, he had been a sword genius. He was invincible in the Sword God Palace. Even in Jade Pure City, when he fought with the genius powerhouses of other sects, he could easily win. He had never suffered such a setback. As for the outside world, he was even more disdainful. They were just ants. However, the defeat of this battle was really unexpected. He couldn't accept it. Let me ask you, in your universe, how many people are stronger than you? At this moment, the Sword Emperor had a deep suspicion. This universe is too terrifying. Lin Xian said, in the younger generation, no one is my match. Below the Land Immortal, there aren't many who can compete with me. It's not shameful for you to lose to me. You know, I've tricked more than one Land Immortal. If you really fight me to the death, I'm afraid you will die miserably. Lin Xian's words stunned the Sword Emperor and Xiao Dai. They believed that the other party was the number one person in the younger generation. However, the other party had fought against a Land Immortal and even gained the upper hand. How was this possible? A Land Immortal. That was an existence that stood above everything else. Chapter 63-65. The people in the outside world were really too terrifying. This was what the Sword Emperor and the others thought. They found that they were really frogs in a well. In fact, the Sword Emperor was just scared. He was already very strong. Even in the heavens, the realm of the gods or the Nirvana realm, he was a super master below the earth and mortal level. There were not many people who could suppress him. It was a pity that he challenged Lin Xian as soon as he came up. Lin Xian's strength was super terrifying. After the Sword Emperor was defeated, he was very shocked. The two halves of the Sword Emperor's body slowly healed. He said, "You're very strong. I'm no match for you. There's no need to fight. As for the dragon sword soul, needless to say, I'm not qualified to take it." Behind him, Xiao Dai also walked over and bowed respectfully. "Lin Gongzi, I'm sorry for offending you. Please forgive me." Now, she didn't dare to be arrogant in front of Lin Xian anymore. Lin Xian was surprised. He thought that the Sword Emperor would fight with his life, but he didn't expect that. It seemed that the Sword Emperor was indeed an extraordinary person. He said, "It's okay. In fact, your sword Dao is really strong. We can learn from each other in the future." "Okay, young master, aren't you going to Yuqing City? At that time, you can come to the Sword God's Palace as a guest. I'll treat you well." The Sword Emperor was unruly and didn't take anything seriously. However, at this moment, after being defeated by Lin Xian, he somewhat admired Lin Xian. His attitude became a lot more humble. In the distance of the battlefield, there were two figures. These two people were hiding in the void. There were stone-like patterns on their bodies. They were Xian Yin and Xian Ming of the Nirvana realm. Xian Yin looked at this scene and snorted coldly he lost. This Lin Wudi was really strong. Xian Ming said, "It's okay. We have two plans. If we win, we'll get the dragon sword soul." But he lost? It didn't matter. Anyway, we'll let the god's realm and the Sword God's Palace become enemies. It seemed that it was impossible for them to become enemies naturally. In this case, we'll help him. Xian Yin sneered. If such a sword expert died outside, the Sword God Palace would probably go crazy. That's right, he had to be prepared. He might have the power of the Sword God. Therefore, we must ensure that nothing goes wrong. Their eyes flickered. They actually wanted to attack the Sword Emperor. As for the Sword Emperor, he didn't know about this. He had made a promise with Lin Xian that they would spar again in the future. Then he left. Sword Emperor, where are we going? Xiao Dai asked. The Sword Emperor said, let's go back to the Sword God Palace. The world is big, but there is always someone stronger. Only now did I realize that I am not an invincible existence. Cultivate well. Next time, I can't lose to him again. Thinking of this, he increased his speed. A day later, he left the city of 10,000 swords for good. The surroundings had already become desolate. There was not a single figure in the vast mountain range. The Sword Emperor was not worried. Although he had lost to Lin Xian, it was impossible for others to touch him. However, right at that moment, the sky split open, and an enormous hand suddenly slapped toward him. Who was it? Courting death. The Sword Emperor was furious. Someone dared to sneak an attack on him. He turned around and sent out a sword light. This sword cut through heaven and earth. However, in the face of this enormous hand, his sword light was useless. The sword light shattered in an instant, and the enormous hand fell mercilessly. The Sword Emperor's expression changed drastically. This was the power of an earth immortal. Dodge quickly. He roared angrily, and the divine fire on his body burned completely. He desperately dodged this palm. However, half of his body was still shattered. If it wasn't for the divine artifact blocking this attack, he would have been reduced to ashes long ago. But even so, his situation was very bad. Xiao Dai was sent flying by this power. She let out a miserable cry as she was severely injured. She fainted. Who was it? The Sword Emperor roared crazily. He swallowed a pill and swept his gaze in all directions. Get out here. Could it be Lin Wuti? That was impossible. There was no enmity between him and Lin Wuti. He had even invited the other party. The other party had no reason to kill him. Could it be that the other party was a despicable person? In the void, a sneer came. We are from the divine realm. We won't allow you to live. What? Were they really sent by Lin Wuti? The Sword Emperor's expression was extremely ugly. However, he quickly said, impossible. I'm no longer a threat to him. He doesn't have to kill me. Who are you? Who are you? In the sky, the figure snorted coldly. It's not a good thing to be too smart. Who am I? You don't need to know. You only need to know that your death is very valuable to us. After saying those words, the enormous palm once again came crashing down from the sky. The sword god was desperate. Although he was extremely powerful, he was no match for an earth immortal. At this moment of crisis, the space between his eyebrows split open, and an even more terrifying sword intent swept over. This was the power that the sword god had left in him to resist the earth immortal. As expected, there was the power left by the sword god. But so what? This time we are well prepared. The power of the second earth immortal erupted. It began to seal the power of the sword god. 2 earth immortals. The sword emperor was really desperate. How could he resist 2 immortal level figures to kill him? He would definitely die. Kid, you should be proud to die in our hands. Boom! The sword emperor's body shattered, and his heart and soul were destroyed. In the hands of the earth immortals, he had no chance of escaping. The divine artifact in his hand fell to the ground, making a sorrowful sound. This divine artifact wanted to risk its life, but it was caught by the earth immortal and then sealed. On the other side, the aura of the third earth immortal erupted, and together they destroyed the power of the sword god. Then 3 figures stood in the void. 2 of them were wearing black robes, and one was a translucent soul. The 3 of them sneered and said, "Things are going well. Let's go Throw this divine artifact into the city of 10,000 swords, and our mission will be completed." The three of them cut through the void and left. These three people were naturally Xianyin, Xianming, and Virtual Immortal. The three Earth Immortals made a move to frame the Divine Realm and Lin Xian. The three of them quickly flew into the distance, towards the city of 10,000 swords. When they were hundreds of thousands of miles away from the city of 10,000 swords, they threw out this divine artifact. The white moon divine sword turned into a ray of moonlight, directly piercing through heaven and earth, and fiercely smashing towards the city of 10,000 swords. With a boom, the defenses of the city of 10,000 swords were torn apart. This divine sword directly killed its way into the ancient city. Along the way, it tore apart the endless defenses. Finally, it was nailed to the ground. Everyone in the city of 10,000 swords was stunned. Some people were even torn apart by this force. What was going on? An enemy was attacking. What a powerful attack! Quickly defend. Angry roars came one after another. Lin Xian and the others were also alarmed. When they saw the white moon divine sword nailed to the ground, they frowned. The crimson dragon roared, "Is it that sword emperor?" I knew it. How could he bow his head and admit defeat? Could it be that he has come back? And with the masters of the Sword God Palace. Lin Xian also didn't quite believe it. His Rinnegan looked outside. Then he said, "No one." Impossible, right? The crimson dragon and the others searched everywhere, but they found that there was really no one. There was only a sword. Chapter 63-66. In the vast mountains, Xiao Dai opened her eyes. "What's wrong with me? My head hurts so much. I've already died once. My cultivation base has already become a quasi-emperor. What happened before? Why don't I remember? Damn it! Who can help me break the seal from before?" Xiao Dai was in great pain. Xiao Dai being alive was definitely out of everyone's expectations. Even the Earth Immortals probably didn't expect it, because Xiao Dai's body wasn't human, but of the divine silkworm race. The divine silkworm race broke through the cocoon and became a butterfly. Moreover, when they died, they didn't really die. They would pay the price of losing their cultivation base to turn into a cocoon and revive again. However, their memories would be sealed and needed someone to break it. Xiao Dai couldn't remember anything at this moment, and her body began to form a cocoon of light. It recovered again. She was seriously injured. Although she was alive, she couldn't move yet. At the same time, in the Sword God Palace, the Sword God's expression changed. Not good. Something happened to the Sword Emperor. The sword energy he left in the Sword Emperor's body was destroyed, and it was destroyed in an instant. An Earth Immortal made a move. More than one. Damn it, did the Divine Realm make a move? They're going too far. On this day, the Sword God Palace was incomparably furious. The sword energy tore through the 9 heavens. The Sword God didn't attack immediately. After all, he didn't know how many enemies were waiting for him outside. However, he wouldn't let this matter rest. He condensed a Sword Dao clone and left Jade Green City. He wanted to thoroughly investigate this matter and find out who did it. He couldn't find any other clues, but he found that the White Moon Divine Sword's aura was still there. He had to find this divine weapon first. This was also a divine weapon of his Sword God Palace. He definitely couldn't allow it to be left outside. Moreover, the person who possessed the divine weapon was most likely the person who killed the Sword Emperor. Was it that Lin Xian, the owner of the Great Dragon Sword? The Sword Dao clone was very fast. This clone was extremely terrifying. It had the strength of an Earth Immortal. Therefore, it didn't take long for him to arrive at the city of 10,000 swords. "Get out here!" With an angry roar, the sword slashed down, and the city of 10,000 swords shook violently again. The people in the city of 10,000 swords were also stunned. Previously, their defenses were broken by the divine sword making, and they were facing a great enemy. Later, they realized that there was no sign of the Sword Emperor. Who would have thought that the situation would change again? Someone else was coming. Who was the reckless one? The Crimson Dragon and the others rushed over. They saw a figure surrounded by sword light standing between heaven and earth. The other party's aura was much more terrifying than the Sword Emperor's, causing their scalps to go numb. This was the power of a land immortal. Who is this senior? Leif Daudenier asked. It was as if they were facing a great enemy. Jian Dao Clone said coldly, I can sense that the White Moon Divine Sword is here. Had the Sword Emperor been here? That's right. Leif Daudenier and the others nodded. So, it really was you who killed the Sword Emperor. What? The Sword Emperor was dead. Leif Daudenier and the others were stunned. What kind of joke was this? Although Lin Xian defeated the Sword Emperor, he did not kill him. They even appreciated each other. So how could they have died? What a bunch of nonsense. The Crimson Dragon jumped out and said, Do you think you can distort the truth just because you are an Earth immortal? We were the ones who were magnanimous and let that guy go. In the end, that guy attacked us with his divine sword and even injured our subordinates. We didn't look for trouble with you, but you still dare to slander us. Stupid ant, what kind of tone is that? The Sword Dao clone was furious and punched out. 10,000 sword fist. It directly charged towards the Crimson Dragon. The Crimson Dragon was shocked. He quickly activated the array. The sword light above the city wall turned into a giant dragon and crazily resisted. This time, even Wan Jianqing trembled. Countless people inside were shocked. Even Lin Xian opened his eyes. He asked, What's going on? Beside him, Morong Qingqing said, Brother Xian, it seems that a land immortal has arrived. Land immortal? Let's go take a look. Lin Xian and the others walked out. What's going on? Lin Xian asked. Leif Daudenier told him what had happened, and Lin Xian's expression changed. The Sword Emperor was dead. He felt that something was wrong. There seemed to be something fishy about this. Senior is from the Sword God Palace? Could it be the Sword God? That's right, it's me. Let me ask you, is the White Moon Divine Sword in this ancient city? Lin Xian waved his hand and directly took the White Moon Divine Sword from afar. He threw it to the Sword Dao clone in front of him. After the Sword Dao clone received it, he coldly shouted, You are the successor of the great Dragon Sword Soul, right? You are so ruthless. It was just a spar. Why did you kill the Sword Emperor? Do you know that the Sword Emperor is my successor? He will be in charge of the Sword God Palace in the future. I didn't kill the Sword Emperor. There must be a misunderstanding. Senior, why don't you investigate clearly first? Is there a misunderstanding? It's very simple. Come back to the Sword God Palace with me. When I investigate clearly, I will let you go. Hearing this, Lin Xian's face darkened. Senior didn't investigate the cause of the Sword Emperor's death, but had designs on me. Do you think that you can do whatever you want just because you are a land immortal? He could feel a trace of greed in the other party's eyes. Since you are unwilling, then don't blame me for making a move. This Sword Dao clone was extremely powerful. In the next moment, he grabbed the White Moon Divine Sword and slashed over. Lin Xian roared angrily. The great dragon sword soul fused with the earth vein, forming an azure dragon. It rushed out from the ground and collided with the opponent's divine artifact. With a clang, the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. Great, he blocked it. The Sword Dao clone in front of him had a gloomy expression. I didn't expect you to be able to control the earth vein here. I'm really surprised that a mere great emperor can do this. However, you underestimate my power too much. The power of a land immortal is not something you can imagine. White Moon Divine Dance. At this moment, the Sword Dao clone soared into the sky. He used a peerless divine ability. Previously, the Sword Emperor had used this move. However, at this moment, the Sword Dao clone was 100 times stronger than the Sword Emperor. Lin Xian and the others didn't attack again. Instead, they used the power of the earth vein to the extreme. They defended stubbornly. Wan Jianqing shook violently from the attack. Everyone was terrified. What should we do? Lin Xian said, "From the looks of it, it's just a clone. I've experienced the power of a real land immortal, and he can't reach it at all. Furthermore, this matter is too strange. I keep feeling that someone has tampered with it. Furthermore, this clone is up to no good. I'll send a voice transmission to Lord Alcohol." Lin Xian decided to end the battle quickly. Upper Azure City. After Lord Alcohol received the news, he immediately took action. Across the endless void, he slashed out the devouring sword. In an instant, he appeared outside the ancient city. Then he swallowed all the aquamoon sword beams that filled the sky. In the next moment, the devouring vortex once again shot out countless sword beams towards the Sword Dao clone. The Sword Dao clone jumped in fright and hurriedly dodged. Then his expression turned extremely ugly. He stared intently at the vortex. What a strange power! The vortex of sword beams was extremely terrifying. As a clone, he was no match for it. At this moment, Lord Alcohol's voice sounded from the vortex. "Scram, or I'll destroy you." Chapter 63-67 Land Immortal. The Sword Dao clone's expression was extremely ugly. He knew that it was impossible for him to succeed today. He said, "Okay, just you wait. This matter is not over. My Sword God Palace is not so easy to bully. Moreover, the power of Jade Pure City is beyond your imagination. Just you wait and bear the wrath." With that, the Sword Dao clone turned and left. The black vortex came to the ancient city and said, "What's going on?" Lin Xian told him what had happened and said, "Things are too strange. The Sword Emperor was killed, and it was definitely not us. I suspect that someone wants to frame us." Lord Alcohol said, "If it's not the Supreme Palace, then it's the other side. Moreover, that Sword Emperor could instantly know that you were the owner of the great dragon Sword Soul. It was also very strange. I feel that this is a trap, and we are already deep in it. Then let's hurry up and find out." The Crimson Dragon said, "We can't be wronged like this." Lord Alcohol shook his head and said, "It's useless. Since they did it, they must be extremely careful. It must be foolproof. We can't find any clues at all. Moreover, that Sword Dao clone was clearly after the great dragon Sword Soul. Therefore, whether or not the Sword Emperor is involved, the Sword God Palace will not let this matter rest. Kid, you have to be careful. If you really can't do it, you should avoid the limelight and not go to Jade Pure City." However, Lin Xian shook his head. "No, I must go to Jade Pure City. I feel that there must be a fragment of the great dragon sword in Jade Pure City. I must find it. Although my strength has increased, I still can't face a land immortal. If I can find the fragment of the great dragon sword, then I will have the power to fight." Lin Xian decided to take them by surprise and immediately set off. No one would have thought. In a distant place, in the void, Xian Ming sensed the scene in front of him. The corners of his mouth also raised into a smile. That old ghost sword god made a move, but was blocked by the devouring sword. However, he definitely won't let this go. We can sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. The old ghost didn't investigate the cause of the Sword Emperor's death at all. Instead, he went straight for the great dragon Sword Soul. His purpose was obvious, but could he win? Xian Yin frowned. Xian Ming laughed and said, "In Jade Clear City, he is not the only Earth immortal. I reckon when he goes back, he will join forces. At that time, we'll sow discord among them. I think these people's spearheads will all point towards the God Realm. Once they start fighting, it will give us time to rest. By the time we're ready and make a comeback, it will be the end of God's domain." Xian Ming also sighed. "Can Lord Taishang's plan succeed?" Why haven't those people from the river of time returned? Could there be a problem? Xian Yin shook his head. I don't know. The power of time is the strangest. No one can tell. It's better for us to wait in silence. As soon as he finished speaking, the two figures disappeared again. On the other side, Lin Xian had already begun to move. He went to Jade Clear City alone. Apart from this, the others were waiting, entering in batches, because if they went together, they would be too big of a target. Lord Alcohol personally used the devouring vortex to send Lin Xian outside Jade Pure City. Then he said, "Little guy, be careful. Keep this vortex with you. If there's any danger, take it out immediately. I will resist those guys." With that, the vortex quickly shrank to the size of a palm. Lin Xian waved his hand and put it into the sword world. The next moment, he took a deep breath and restrained his aura. He entered Jade Clear City. On the other side, the sword Dao clone also returned to Jade Clear City. Moreover, he was only slightly faster than Lin Xian. After he returned, he merged with his main body. The sword god's expression was extremely ugly. What a god realm! What a successor of the dragon sword soul! Just you wait. With that, he sent out an order. Go, invite Wood Immortal and Water Immortal. Tell them that I have something important to discuss with them. Also, from now on, keep an eye on the outsiders who come to Jade Clear City. As long as a young peerless swordsman appears, immediately take him down. Yes, the people of the Sword God Palace hurriedly went to make arrangements. However, they were still a step too late because Lin Xian had already entered. After Lin Xian entered, he sighed with emotion. A city is a world. This Jade Clear City is vast and boundless. Sure enough, it was very similar to Shangqing City. However, Shangqing City was too deserted. Other than the people of the God Realm, there was no one else. However, Jade Clear City was different. Lin Xian seemed to see a world where martial arts flourished. He could feel that there was more than one Earth Immortal's aura. Sure enough, it was very similar to Immortal City. Lin Xian could feel that there was a biting cold sword intent in the west of Jade Clear City. That should be the direction of the Sword God Palace. He didn't go to the west, but to the east. This time he only had one goal in coming to Jade Clear City, to find the fragment of the great dragon sword. Turning the black ring on his finger, Lin Xian set off. He kept walking, because Lord Alcohol had said that this ring was related to the great dragon sword. Once the ring reacted, the fragment of the great dragon sword would be nearby. However, after searching for 5 days, the ring didn't react at all. Lin Xian then went to several other places in Clear Jade City. He also went to the north and south. However, there was no reaction. Instead, he discovered something. The people of the Sword God Palace had begun to investigate the outsiders. They seemed to be searching for something. It should be the Sword God who gave the order to search for him, right? Thinking of this, Lin Xian snorted coldly. He avoided the detection of these people and continued to search for the whereabouts of the great dragon sword. However, he still found nothing. No, I have to change my way of thinking. With my strength, it's impossible to completely explore the entire Jade Clear City, because there were some places where powerful families and sects were located. He couldn't enter those places. It seemed that he had to release some news. Next, Lin Xian used a method to send some information. He used Rinnegan to control some people and inputted some information into their souls. For example, the whereabouts of the great dragon sword was out. The offensive same technique was in Jade Clear City. In short, he spread the news as much as he could. When these people spread the news, no one believed them at first. However, the news spread more and more. For a moment, countless people were stunned. What? The great dragon sword, which represented offensive techniques and power, was in their Jade Clear City. Whoever could find it would become a land immortal. For a moment, countless people went crazy. They began to search. It was overwhelming. Some families and sects had even begun to move. Lin Xian's lips curled into a smile as he looked at the treasure-hunting army. With these people helping him search, the speed and efficiency should be much faster. The news spread wider and wider. In the end, even the people of the Sword God Palace knew about it. When they sent the news back, the Sword God frowned. Where did this news come from? Was it spread by the outside world? Damn it! Would anyone go to look for the great dragon sword soul? If the other land immortals took the lead, that was his plan. Wouldn't it be ruined? Chapter 63-68. Sword God was very worried, so he began to send people to block the news. It was fine if he didn't do anything, but once he did, everyone became alert. The people of Sword God Palace were blocking the news. Damn it, they must know something. Let's go to Sword God Palace. Countless people began to move, and the treasure-hunting army charged to the west of Jade, Clear City. Damn it, are these guys crazy? Sword God was so angry that he almost vomited blood when he heard the news. A group of reckless people. He wanted to make a move, but he found that there were more and more people, and the families and sects involved far exceeded his imagination. There were even other immortal palaces and divine palaces behind them. Damn it, there were even land immortals asking him if he really had news of the great dragon sword. Sword God went crazy. No, I don't. He roared angrily. At the same time, he gritted his teeth. This matter was too strange. Someone had acted before him. Was it someone from the divine realm? Find him. Find that kid thoroughly for me. At the same time, Sword God also made a move. He condensed 7 blood swords. Each blood sword carried an extremely strong killing intent. The 7 blood swords circled in the void. In the next moment, Sword God waved his hand again. The divine fire on his body condensed into a flame figure. This flame figure turned into the appearance of a man. If Lin Xian was here, he would definitely find that the flame figure condensed into his appearance. Hunt down this kid for me. The 7 blood sword chi were controlled by Sword God and pierced through the flame figure. Then the flames on the flame figure disappeared and merged into the 7 sword chi. Go! The 7 blood swords flew out of Sword God Palace and circled in the sky, flying in 7 directions. Humph! Kid, unless you don't appear. If you really are here, the blood sword will kill you. After Sword God did all this, he snorted coldly and began to wait. Lin Xian did come. He followed the treasure-hunting army. This way, the swordsmen of Sword God Palace wouldn't be able to find him. Lin Xian had been silently searching. He found that Sword God Palace was abnormally furious. He sneered. He was prepared to wait for an opportunity. But on this day, a blood sword flew over from the sky. The sword chi on the blood sword was very terrifying, causing countless experts to be terrified. Get out of the way, they all fled. The blood sword was invincible wherever it passed. Lin Xian frowned as well. His figure flashed as he quickly dodged. However, at this moment, the blood sword started to tremble violently. Above it, a bloody light filled the sky. Then he stared at Lin Xian as if to confirm. In the next moment, when he arrived in front of Lin Xian, he immediately released a monstrous killing intent. Then he turned into a shocking rainbow and slashed towards Lin Xian. This sudden scene shocked everyone. What was going on? This blood arrow was so terrifying that it actually attacked a young man. It was too inconceivable. Lin Xian was also stunned. Get lost. He threw out a punch. The golden fist flew out like a golden crow and knocked the blood sword away. However, blood sword was completely fine. He once again turned around and charged at Lin Xian. Lin Xian frowned and kept dodging. However, no matter where he appeared, the blood arrow stared at him as if it would not stop until he was dead. Humph! Lin Xian roared as he took out the god-slaying sword and slashed out. This time, the power of the gods completely exploded. The blood arrow was completely knocked away by him, and a huge crack appeared in the sky. The blood sword was directly knocked into the void. The blood sword did not return in a short period of time. One could imagine how terrifying this attack was. Who was this kid? He was actually targeted by Xue Tian. Someone said, I saw 7 blood arrows fly out from the Sword God Palace with my own eyes. This is the power of the Sword God Palace. Did this kid offend the Sword God Palace? Countless discussions could be heard. At this moment, some swordsmen from the Sword God Palace rushed over and surrounded Lin Xian. This person is very suspicious. Take him down. Get lost. Lin Xian roared as he slashed out. Instantly, 3 swordsmen from the Sword God Palace were split apart. Blood dyed the sky. Everyone went crazy. This guy actually dared to attack the people from the Sword God Palace. Did he have a death wish? The experts from the Sword God Palace were also furious. Take him down. With a furious roar, more than 10 swordsmen rushed over in an overwhelming manner. Lin Xian waved his hand and struck out the great solar undying palm. In the sky, a palm burning with the sun descended from the sky. It directly enveloped the dozen swordsmen. The sound of bones breaking could be heard as the dozen swordsmen's bodies split apart. They screamed in terror. All sorts of sounds made one's scalp go numb. However, they could not escape. After a palm strike, the dozen swordsmen turned into ashes. The terrifying attack shocked everyone, and they all turned to look at Lin Xian. Who was this young man? He actually dared to kill people from the Sword God Palace. Kid, did you have a death wish? A middle-aged man rushed over from afar. The middle-aged man held a purple long sword with purple flames dancing on it. This sword was called the Purple Fire Sword. It was one of the 10 famous swords of the Sword God Palace. The Sword God Palace was a place that countless swordsmen yearned for. The Sword God was extremely powerful and mysterious. He was elusive and rarely appeared. The most famous person in the Sword God Palace was the Sword Emperor. The head of the 10 famous swords was extremely powerful. He was known as the invincible swordsman below the land immortals. He was invincible. In addition to him, the Sword God Palace had 9 other famous swords that were extremely terrifying. Although it wasn't a divine artifact, it was still a terrifying existence among extreme weapons. The Purple Fire Sword was one of the 10 famous swords. The man who was burning with purple flames was known as the Purple Fire Sword Emperor. Kid, who are you? How dare you kill people from the Sword God Palace? The Purple Fire Sword Emperor shouted coldly. Her voice was filled with a scorching aura. Lin Xian snorted coldly. You came to kill me, and you still don't know who I am? Are you the person we are looking for? That's right. Lin Xian sneered. So it's you. The Purple Fire Sword Emperor snorted coldly. In the next moment he attacked. The purple fire sword in his hand swept across the sky. Instantly, the entire sky became bright. Countless flames spread between heaven and earth. The monstrous power made everyone tremble in fear. It's none of our business. Those people who were looking for treasures fled far away. They shook their heads frantically. We won't be enemies with the Sword God Palace. Kid, everything is over. The Purple Fire Sword Emperor's voice could be heard from the purple flames in the sky. In the next moment, thousands of purple sword chi condensed in the sky and fell mercilessly. This attack was extremely terrifying. No one could withstand it. Even a great emperor would be turned into ashes instantly. Lin Xian lifted his head to look at the sky. His lips curled into a cold smile as he watched the terrifying attack. In the next moment, he attacked. Qinkuin, sword art. Everything was a sword. Sword chi appeared in all directions. It was shocking. This kid was also an exceptional swordsman. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.